session of Owen Sound City Council. It's good to see so many people who decided to come and visit us in person this evening. So thank you for that. Council has had a long meeting already. We've been meeting since 4:30 this afternoon, and collectively we apologize to you for being 20 minutes late. We're pretty accustomed to running right on time, and today the business before us was very time consuming, and some good decisions I believe were made for our community. I would invite you to join us in a moment of silence as we have silent reflection, please. And as we reflect, I would invite you to reflect on the 50th anniversary of probably, without a doubt, Martin Luther King's most famous speech that occurred on August 28th in Washington. And this is a speech that resonates today. So I ask you to reflect on that. Thank you. Are there any additional items from any member of council for this evening? Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I did want to speak about the visit that we had in Arroyo called the First Impressions. Thank you.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to raise an issue about Owen Sound.
Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be bringing forward, well, I'd like to talk about the former Black Class on Kennedy site.
Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. Two matters I wish to raise or discuss. On-street parking of commercial vehicles in residential neighborhoods, and a little housekeeping discussion on arranging to have the police board minutes in our package, a discussion about that.
Sure. Any other members of council? Members of staff? Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to provide notice to council that we will be deferring consideration of bylaw number 2013-156. That is a bylaw to execute an agreement between the City of Owen Sound and Dean Lane Contractors respecting a tender. And we've deferred that for 2 weeks, and we'll bring it back for consideration at our next meeting.
Thank you. I have 3 items of other business to bring forward to council. One with regards to Stop the Drop, and 2 gifts and a certificate of appreciation the city has received. And a coffee break that we're hosting here at City Hall. Are there any disclosure of pecuniary interest? Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be disclosing a pecuniary interest with regards to the mayor's Alzheimer coffee break as it affects my employer.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes, please, from August the 12th.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that the minutes of the regular meeting of City Council held on August 12th, 2013, as printed, be adopted.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Resolution moving council into committee of the whole, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that City Council now go into committee of the whole to consider public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business.
All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We're now in committee of the whole. We do not have any public meetings scheduled for this evening. We do, however, have a couple of deputations, and I would ask Mr. Steve Furness, our Manager of Economic Development and Tourism, to step forward and introduce our first visitor this evening.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. I'm pleased tonight to introduce to you Arif Ismail, who's with Legacy Hospitality Management and Development, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about a new investment, major investment in our tourism and hospitality sector. And I thank Arif for the last 6 months we've been working on this, and the development team for various discussions that have occurred. And so I'll just bring up Arif's presentation. And welcome, Arif.
Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Council for having me here today to briefly talk about our project that we intend to develop in the city of Owen Sound. A little bit about our company. We're a small real estate development management company based in Southern Ontario, particularly in Markham, Richmond area. We specialize in hotel development. We currently own and manage 7 hotels across Southern Ontario, and we've started to branch out more particularly into Grey County and Bruce County. We're scheduled to break ground on a town place by Marriott in Kincardine, Ontario on September 16th, and we welcome members of council, mayor, and the community of Owen Sound to participate in that event also. The project that we were planning to develop here in Owen Sound, the images is showing a 5-story. We're hoping to develop a 6-story hotel facility, approximately 100 rooms, in an extended stay property. I'm not too sure if you folks are familiar with the extended stay property. Those are your Homewood Suites, Residence Inns, Town Place, and your Staybridge Suites. They cater for to guests staying 3+ days or more. All the rooms have full kitchenettes, and like I said, it's meant for contractors, trainers, and people just relocating and needing a short-term accommodation for 3 days up to several months. We've currently are working on a site on 16th and I believe 16th and 16th, and it's about 2.2 acres. The facility, like I said, it should have 100 rooms with about close to 3,000 square feet of flexible meeting space. We're planning on having indoor saltwater pool for our guests and community, and we're planning to have a golf simulator in the hotel to create some sort of buzz in the community. And we want to make the hotel not just a community hotel, but a regional hotel where people outside the city of Owen Sound may not have those facilities, and they would be drawn into the community of Owen Sound. I would like to take this moment to thank Steve for his patience for the past 6-7 months. Members of staff that we've had an opportunity with, the mayor herself, that has shown great patience with us, and a special thanks to Peter Van Dolder for his ongoing support for this project, a true gentleman of Owen Sound. We're worked on a site with him, and I'm sure he could have sold it for double the price that we currently acquired it for it. And he should be commended for his desire and his passion for the community. And I just want to point that out. And I really want to thank Peter for allowing us to be a partner in the strategic growth of the community of Owen Sound. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Arif. And on behalf of council, I want to welcome you as a very new corporate member of our community, and to you and your family. And you couldn't have associated yourself with a finer individual than the fellow sitting immediately to your left. So having said that, I'm sure I'll pay for that with Mr. Van Dolder for many years to come. But welcome. This is very good news for us. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much. I am I am so happy that this is happening, because how many times, Steve, I guess I won't be in your office quite as often anymore hollering at you about getting us a new hotel. So I'll have to find another reason to come in, but this is good news, because you have no idea how many times we've been wanting to bring conferences to this community and can't because we haven't had the hotel space. So this is indeed excellent news for our community. Thank you.
Councillor Adair?
I do have I have a question and a comment. When are you breaking ground?
Well, we haven't determined a scheduled date to break ground. Like I said, our current project is up in Kincardine, and that project should take anywhere between 10 to 14 months, and we assume to break ground within the next 2 years.
Excellent. Just a comment. Certainly, I think a lot of the sports organizations will be quite happy. One of the restraints of hosting things here is the lack of available hotel and motel space, and this is great news. This is a great announcement, and I think a lot of people will be quite happy with this.
Councillor Lemon? Councillor Chamberlain?
Yeah, I am very, very pleased about this. I think it's great. And I can also see a great benefit to Georgian College and their programs, because they have people who come up for a longer stay, and maybe they want to make coffee and a small meal in their rooms and would be able to. And this is part of the hotel motel market that we don't have anybody fulfilling at this point. And I can see other benefactors as well, possibly industry, the hospital. And in that respect, someone from, let's use Kincardine as an example, has a loved one in the Regional Health Center in Owen Sound. They may want to stay for a number of days, and this would accommodate it. So I see this as something that's very, very positive. I think it's a good news thing. I congratulate you, and Council is more than aware of the contribution by the Van Dolder family over many years to this community, and this is once again a great step forward and will, I think, lead to other spin-offs. It's going to be simply great. Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain?
Yes, my comments were very similar to Councillor Lemon's. I thought the location was fairly close to the hospital and Georgian College and Seasons, so I did think that was going to work out well, especially with the extended stay rooms. That's a very good location for us. So thank you very much.
Councillor Body?
Thank you, Worship. As the chair of the Economic Development, I'm in and out of Steve's office a couple of times a week, so you talk about working hard the last 6 or 7 months that I've been aware of, and it's sometimes we get asked as councillors, what's going on, how come you're not doing anything, and we keep our lips buttoned knowing that there's some exciting projects coming along. So it's fun to see an announcement tonight after Steve working so hard with you and vice versa to get to this point. So congratulations and thank you to all 3 of you that are sitting there.
Well, I think you've certainly heard from council that there's tremendous support for your development, and of course, this city is very much open and supportive of new investment. We congratulate you on your wise decision to invest here. We believe that you've made a wise decision, and we certainly wish you all the best and hope that you are profitable and happy and successful in our community. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have a deputation now from Mr. Andrew Baines, the chair of the Sweetwater Music Festival Board. And this is, I cannot believe it, it's the 10th anniversary of the Sweetwater Festival.
Your
Welcome.
Worship, I have to find my way around the computer.
I understand. So do I.
How do we get over here? Good.
There you go.
Good. Your Worship and members of council and guests, audience. Sweetwater, as the mayor has said, is now having its 10th anniversary at the end of September. And some people have asked, why do we have a Sweetwater Festival? We've got a fantastic Georgian Bay Symphony, we've got a fantastic concert choir, we've got jazz bands, we've got a lot of music here already. And that's one of the reasons why we do have Sweetwater, because it's there to complement those other activities. As you'll see, what it does is try to provide something that we can't get with the sort of musicians that we have here because of the complexity of the repertoire and the nature of the expertise that you have to have in order to do this. The other reason we have the festival is because, although you may not know this, this is a center for the making of violin and stringed instruments in Canada, really. There are 6 luthiers, or stringed instrument manufacturers and makers of bows for stringed instruments in this area, which makes it a focal point for the development of that craft. And the reason that the whole thing started was linked to these luthiers. Going back on what I was saying right at the beginning, the reason we're here is to complement this rich musical life and add to it, and to contribute to music education. But the reason it got started was 11 years ago, Mark Fewer, who was a young man who came from Newfoundland and was staying with the Medley family in Toronto while he went to school, and the Medley family had a farm near Anna. He was a superb violinist. And 11 years ago, as a benefit concert for the Georgian Bay Symphony, Mark put on a concert of Bach's unaccompanied violin sonatas, which he played in Leith Church. This was such an incredible success. People were so excited about the music that Mark and his adopted parents, the Medleys, decided that they would found a weekend festival in the end of September. And that is where Sweetwater began. Always, since the beginning, we've had the exhibition of the local luthiers. And this has been done in a variety of places, usually in recent years in the Georgian Shores Church. But this year, because we've affiliated with the Tom Thomson and the Canadian Spirit Festival, we are putting on the Luthier Festival in the Tom Thomson Gallery. And the exhibition will be there on Saturday, and towards the end of that exhibition, there'll be a demonstration of these instruments where some of the Sweetwater musicians will come and play on these instruments. And as an added feature, the main attraction on Saturday evening is going to be a playing of all 6 of Bach's Brandenburg concertos, and one of them is going to be played exclusively on instruments made in Owen Sound and the surrounding territories. So the unique thing about the festival is that it's not like the Festival on the Sound or Elora or Toronto Summer Music or some of these other festivals. Those festivals all take a group. They're made up of concerts given by individuals and groups who come and give you their shtick. You know, they give you, this is my performance. What you get with Sweetwater is the opportunity to see musicians coming from across Canada, from the States, from Europe, coming together to make music and to make it as a one-of-a-kind. The groupings of really all soloist-level musicians coming together to play chamber music is extremely exciting, as I think those of you who have been to these concerts will attest. And the I have to interject this. The advent of this hotel will be a great boon to Sweetwater. One of the problems we face is this is a weekend event. The musicians are here for 5 days because they come and rehearse here, which you don't get with most touring groups. They don't have to rehearse. They've done it before. But these men and women come together to rehearse. They're here for 5 days. The audience comes for 3 days. And there's no place to stay because it's all occupied by hockey players. We have to arrange somehow or another not to clash with hockey weekends in future. And I gather from staff here that you are trying to work out some way that we can plan so that we know when the athletic events are and they know when the artistic events are and we don't clash with each other.
Perhaps a sonata on ice.
Yes, well that would be an interesting
Sure.
idea, yes, we can try that. Halftime music, the string quartet, I think it would go over very well. The other part of this is the educational component. We have always offered master classes. That is where these world-class musicians will do one-on-one educational experience for young musicians here and for musicians in the GBSO and the Symphony Youth Orchestra as well. So these are unique opportunities to get really in-depth exposure to a world-class musician as a teacher. And these are public events. The audience can come, public can come in and observe these. It can be very exciting. We also always have school visits where some of the musicians go to one or two of the schools around and meet with the high school students usually. We had at Ball this year, our artistic director, Mark Fewer, gave a lecture on the Brandenburg concertos, which was very popular. And this year also, we started a new tradition, which is to play Haydn's 7 Last Words of Christ on Good Friday. It's a string quartet with narration. We played it in George and Shores on Good Friday, and we will do that again next year. And the idea is this will be an annual event. The people who are here are Juno and or Grammy Award winners. Jim Campbell is one of the best clarinetists there are. Mark Fewer is an amazing violinist who is as happy playing early Baroque music as he is playing jazz. And although he will only do this for his friends, he is very good at fiddling too. Denise Jotik is a world-class cellist. Annalie, you can pronounce the last name. Roman Boris and Philip and David Young, these are all major musicians in their own right. I've already mentioned Mark's ability to play in a variety of styles. We always have associated with the festival some jazz, and this year it's going to be the Hot Club of France, which will be celebrating the jazz music of Stefan Grappelli and Django Reinhardt. And that's a Pay What You Can concert in the Tom Thomson. We always have newly composed music as well. And this year, Rob Carley, who writes the music for Murdoch Mysteries, has written a 7th Brandenburg Concerto, which will be played on Saturday night. We provide a platform for rising stars in this area, 3 of whom will give a concert on Saturday evening: Emily Acquin, Katie Gleiser, and Sebastian Ostertag, a vague relation of somebody on council. And they are going to, Emily and Sebastian are also going to play with the ensemble on Saturday night and again on Sunday. The ticket prices have been lowered this year, and 2 of the events are Pay What You Can, so it's much more accessible. We are now doing year-round programming. We had a very successful Beethoven piano recital, at least in February, the Good Friday concert I mentioned, the Ball lecture I mentioned, and then there's the festival. We're making it a weekend destination, and it's a destination for the musicians. It's as much fun for them to come as it is for the audience. 20 to 30% of the audience last year came from outside of this area, and we anticipate that that number will increase this year because our promotional activity has been much more strenuous. We've had about, in the last month, 1,000 visits to our web page with 3.89 pages viewed per visit, and the weekend planner is the second most important page. So The people who are hitting our webpage are looking at it as a destination, and they need hotel rooms. Thank you for building some. Oops, he's gone. Well, we need those hotel rooms, and they will be long-stay people. As I said, the musicians are here for 5 days, and the audience for 3. Our Facebook is very active, and that seems to be the end. So.
Thank you so much,
You're welcome.
and thank you for bringing us up to date on Sweetwater Music Festival. I'm sure there'll be at least one member of this council who will have a question or a comment on this great group that brings us incredible talent.
I hope there are 2.
There might be 2. Councillor Purdon.
Yes, I'm very pleased that Dr. Baines is here with this presentation about Sweetwater, and I have been attending it since the beginning, and I can tell you, if you like music, it's one of the best things you could ever go to. So I do hope that it's a bit like a best kept secret. I think often in the city of Owen Sound, people come from far wide to come to the Sweetwater Festival, and I'm hoping we see lots more people from our community. Also, they have been so supportive of young musicians, and my son Sebastian will be playing, and I think that's just a testament as well to how this festival has supported young players all along. He's now a professional player and has been invited to play in the past, as have others. So it's a great festival, and I'm really pleased to see this deputation and encourage everyone to come.
Councillor Dare and then Councillor Lemon.
Well, thank you, Worship. I'm not related to anyone that's playing, but it's still, I think, a very exciting festival. Despite that, the Brandenburg Concertos are my single favorite work of classical music. 80s dance tunes are my most favorite type of music, but the Brandenburg Concertos are up there. I'm glad to see that you have been focusing on bringing those people from out of town. The product that you have here with the festival, I think, is a real opportunity to bring people in from the GTA who enjoy this particular type of music, but like to just get away from Toronto for the weekend and come to a place like Owen Sound and spend the weekend listening to incredible music and taking in the sights of our area. So I'm glad to see that there's, that focus is happening on bringing people in. And yes, we do need more hotel rooms for exactly this sort of event and many other events. So have a great festival, and I will certainly be there for some of the Brandenburgs.
Councillor Lemon.
Well, one comment is I remember the first presentation for the Sweetwater Festival. It's hard to believe it was 10 years ago, but I guess it was. I think back, it certainly is. But what's amazing to me is what I originally thought was going to be a one-year event has turned into an annual event that grows and grows. But most importantly, it gives an opportunity for youth to meet masters in terms of the violin. And I don't have any relatives playing there either. I did try to play a fiddle once, and it was equated to a cat being electrocuted, the sound that I was able to produce. So don't worry, there's no competition here. But I do want to say one thing. The work that the volunteers do on here is just another example of how culture is supported in this community by the broad community and by a large number of people. And the other thing, if you want to sell Owen Sound, driving out along that road to Leith from Owen Sound in September is just absolutely beautiful. And so you've got the right combination of great music and a great area. And I really think you ought to think about a concerto on ice with the violinists skating as they tap dance or do that East Coast dancing while playing the violin. So, that might be fun.
We'll put that to Mark Fuhr, and if any violinist can do it, he could do it, and he might. I think it would be very infused. If I may, one last thing. I've been very pleased with the help that I've received from the staff of the city this year. They've been most helpful in promoting and helping us learn how to promote more effectively to a wider audience. And I look forward to working with them many years down the line. I think it's been going very well.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming with this good news
everybody
tonight.
should take a look at Sweetwater Music. That'll get you to our website.
That's great. Thanks so much. We are at the spot on our agenda where we ask if there's any member of the public who is here to ask a question of this council. Seeing none, we have 2 items of correspondence received which requires the direction of council this evening. 11A is a letter dated August 21st from Gary Levine, the chair of the Owen Sound Police Services Board. This is with regards to proposals for the delivery of police service, Municipality of Meaford and Township of Georgian Bluffs. What is council's direction on this? Councillor Adair.
What direction is being looked for from?
A receipt would be appropriate.
A receipt and Godspeed, perhaps?
If you like, that's fine, but
Receipt is fine, Your Worship. Good luck.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship, and I think this is an interesting initiative to try, as Councillor Adair sort of alluding to. Council has attempted some of this in the past and hasn't been successful, so I do wish you well. I see Mr. Levine's in the audience, and I just had one question. Would it be if I might, Your Worship, to ask a question of
Yeah, I'll just check with Mr. Levine. Would you be welcome? You are welcome to step up to the podium if you would take a couple of questions.
Thank you, Your Worship, for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Levine, I'm just wondering, in your letter, you're indicating that the Police Services Board will be engaging in the discussion, but obviously it would require the agreement of the affected councils before it would go forward. Would it be the intent of the board then that proposal would come to Owen Sound Council prior to being tabled with the other councils? And I apologize for just asking this out of the blue, but
I would say yes. Our intent would be to come up with a proposal that we feel very comfortable with, that we want to put forward, that we think is going to benefit all respective municipalities, and we would want to make sure that Owen Sound Council is on side, certainly.
Great, thank you very much. That's my only question.
Thank you. Any other questions of council of Mr. Levine? Thank you very much for attending this evening, and thank you for providing council with this communication.
Thank you, Your Worship. This has been my shortest council meeting.
You're welcome to stay.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried, and good luck on that endeavor. We have a request for a letter of support from Bruce Power and Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe we should support this by sending a letter in support to Bruce Power, and I'm very appreciative. We all are very appreciative of the support that they give this community.
Discussion, Councillor Lemon.
Well, I was going to make the same motion because the economic impact, excuse me, the economic impact that what Bruce Power has done is absolutely fantastic, and the amount of employment created has been most beneficial to this whole area. I've never seen the exact stat, but I understand a relative who works there. There are quite a few people from Owen Sound who are employed at that plant. So it is really good economic news for this area. And they've been excellent corporate citizens and have sponsored many things.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the, with regards to the Canadian Spirit Festival on September 20th, 21st, and 22nd, and with a recommendation before you. Thank you. That is the beginning of a fairly lengthy consent agenda, which is before council. Councillor Chamberlain.
I was thinking we could put all of the consent agendas together, except the one I would like to pull out is the council tracking sheet that's there. I'd like to look at one of the options on it if we could.
Okay, so you're passing the consent agenda items, save and accept 12A10?
12A10, yes.
Okay. Discussion? All those in favor? Oh, whoops, was that discussion?
I just had a short question.
Yep, that's discussion, sure.
Just in regards to the weekend, the Canadian Spirit Weekend, which is the same weekend as the Sweetwater Festival, it appears that there is some collaboration there with luthiers presenting at the Tom Thomson Art Gallery. I wondered, I don't know if there's any staff here, if there are any other crossovers, seeing as the partnership between the summer folk and the tall ships was such a wonderful success, whether there's been ongoing or any more information about how those two events the same weekend might be working together.
Ms. Coulter.
Through you, Your Worship, I'm sure Ms. Acquin is watching at home, and Canadian Spirit is partnered with Sweetwater. So one of the partnerships is the exhibit that will happen at the Tom that weekend, but a lot of promotion and sharing of promotion and marketing and the event. So I'm sure they'll be back and forth. We can get you more details about that, but I know they have been working together.
Thank you.
Okay. Further discussion on any of the items? Some clarification, Councillor Chamberlain. Is it 2010 to 2012 council tracking sheet or the 2013 council tracking sheet that you wanted to be discussed separately?
I know there's two on there. The one that I wanted to discuss, I do have it marked as 12A10.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that's correct. It's on.
Council has the same agenda as I do. That is how it's listed. There's two items. 12A10 is 2010 to 2012. 12A11 is the 2013. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you for pointing that out, Your Worship, to the clerk. So I don't have the 2013 one if there, it doesn't appear on, or am I missing something?
Yes, it appears that the software has pushed that link down below the consent agenda resolution. So our apologies for that.
Okay.
So 2010 to 2012 is above where it's supposed to be, and 2013 has snuck its way down to the bottom.
There we
Thank
go.
you.
What's one?
That makes it perfectly clear now. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Councillor Chamberlain, we'll go back to you for discussion on 12A10.
Yes, on page 2, around the item that is 12, 10, 15, it's around the item that has the transfer of the rail and marine collection to the Grey Routes, the transfer from the tourism office to the city, and then the marketing of the former CN rail station at 1155 First Avenue West. Through this year, we've been talking about sometimes changing directions, and I was told, and I know that this is true, that the city manager has been going on the information that we've had, but we were told that we could look at changing some direction. I wonder if it would be possible to maybe put some of those actions a bit on hold as we're working through some of this with the Community Waterfront Center new grouping. And I didn't know if I was able to put a motion tonight or if I had to put it as a motion, a notice of motion.
I would suggest, I'm going to go to the city manager first, and we'll have an update.
Thank you, Your Worship, through to Councillor. I can tell you that we are not bringing back the proposals until the end of December, as was the resolution of council. We are not actively at this point, because we're waiting for that proposal, the RFP to be dealt with. We're not actively pursuing other marketing opportunities. And we have not pursued moving the collection to Grey Routes at this time. So I'm not sure, unless there's other specific actions that you want, that we need any different direction at this point.
through you,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very satisfied if that is the action. I think that that's needed to be known by the public as well, that we are not pursuing those things, waiting on the report coming in from that group, and that would help. So, thank you.
Councillor Lemon?
Yeah, just a technical point here. What happens to the existing collection of the Marine Rail Museum is actually a function of the Marine Rail Board, not of the city. And they could arbitrarily decide to do something with the collection. They have that right because they are an independent body and not under the governance of the city. Is that not correct?
City
Well,
Manager?
if I could, Your Worship, I can specifically tell you that the acting curator has indicated the actions as I've given them to you this evening. Obviously, the board could take some other direction, I suppose, but there's no indication that they have any interest in doing that. They want to work with the new group to the degree that they can. And I'm not sure that a resolution of this council would necessarily have any weight with them in any case, but I can tell you that they want to work with the new group. The curator has indicated that they are not moving forward with moving the collection at this point in time.
Okay, thank you for the clarification, because there is that sort of little point. It's not something that city council can decide because we have no jurisdiction, which I recognize, and I'm not, but I wanted to make sure that that everyone realized that it is the decision of the existing board, the Owen Sound Museums. And I think, and I'm glad they're taking that attitude, because the support for heritage in Owen Sound has never been larger than it is right now. And certainly what happened with the tall ships and the thousands of people who were on the waterfront for that event indicates a definite interest in maritime heritage in this community, because a lot of those people were from Owen Sound, many from out of town. So that's positive news as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Councillor Purdon?
Two comments. First of all, I find it very helpful to have this tracking sheet, and it kind of helped me anyway, looking it over to see resolutions that were made and, you know, what I have paid attention to and haven't. So thank you very much for putting it all together. In regards to the Rail Museum collection, would it be possible to add just a comment to just reflect what the city manager has just stated in the comment field? It would just bring it up to date, because the last posting in that section is from March and we're now in August, so perhaps that would just bring it a little more up to date with a comment.
I can undertake that, Your Worship.
Councillor Body?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to point out that our Marine Rail Museum Board are citizens of Owen Sound, volunteers. Some of them have volunteered for up to 20 years. They dipped into their own pocket to dig out their own money to buy an artifact for the Bishop home. They, more than any of us, know what that collection is. They, more than any of us, are concerned about the preservation of it. The building is not up to par to carry and look after that collection. That seems to be overlooked. These people have been misaligned, bullied in some cases, criticized. They've had their everything about them questioned. We're lucky they haven't just all quit and walked away. They're good people. They need to be thanked. They need to be respected. They are not going to do anything to harm this collection. Not now, not ever. They know what they're doing. So to be continually bringing up that we're worried about them giving it away or giving it to the roots, gray roots would be a benefit, because then they'd be stored out of a wet basement and stored properly. We've got wood, we've got a lot of paper, we've got a lot of cloth down in there. There's glass and metal that maybe won't go as quickly. But their concern is about this collection. They're not going to do anything to get themselves in hot water in this community, to be criticized further than they have been, or to be mistreated. So we should all take a deep breath, including me right at this very moment, quite obviously. These people should be thanked. Quit asking questions and setting them up to think they're doing something sneaky. They won't. They don't. They're good people. They care about this community. They need to be thanked. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, everyone. And it is good news to know that, in fact, the current board of directors, representatives from the current board, and the community group that sprung forward have met recently, have had some very healthy discussions, and are really beginning to understand each other. And the one thing that certainly all of the individuals involved here appreciate is the long heritage in Owen Sound and how we value our history. So I have to say to all those involved, everyone is a volunteer, and everyone is valued, and everyone's decision counts. And I echo many of the same sentiments as Councillor Boddy, and I thank you for bringing that forward. Good discussion. Councillor Chamberlain, what would you like to create a motion, perhaps, so we can move on from 12A10?
I could create a motion. I thought that I was very satisfied with the city manager's plan to update it on this list, that what the action step is right now, with things being put on hold until the end of December.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. I don't think it needs a motion.
But we need a motion to, yeah, we do need a motion to
motion?
move forward on that.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
make a motion then that we put on hold the transfer of the marine and rail collection to Grey Routes, put on hold the transfer of the tourism office to the city hall.
Well, that's a different motion. That you're sort of springing a new thing on council.
I'm just bringing forward the whole action sheet?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right. I was really into detail.
You
Yes.
were. And
I'll move that we receive the council action sheet 2010-12.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. 2010-12.
What's that?
It's been a long day already.
Whatever number it needs.
Councillor Chamberlain, are you
It has
satisfied
2010,
with that?
2012 on the top of it.
That's right, that's the one.
That's correct.
2010-12.
That's correct.
Yes.
You're right.
Is that okay, everybody?
12A10.
All right, I move that we accept the council action tracking sheet with the change going to that one action step.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Moving along, we have a series of reports. First report is from the city clerk, and that is with regards to the 2014 municipal election and the requirement for a compliance audit committee. What is council's direction? Councillor Purdon.
I would move that we recommend to establish the Joint Compliance Audit Committee for the 2014 election and direct staff to bring forward a bylaw.
Thank you. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from Supervisor of Human Resources with regards to workplace harassment and violence policy. Just a note for the members of the public, all of council undertook a training session this afternoon in terms of workplace violence and harassment to have a better understanding of what this means in our particular situation. And I believe we were well served by our human resources staff in that training. So I thank them for that. What is council's direction? Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Worship. Just in reading the policy, I have a couple of questions, at least one.
Yep.
Under, what page am I on? Page 2 of 7, under procedures for dealing with workplace harassment, it says, ask the harasser to stop his or her conduct immediately. Make your objections known and inform the harasser that behavior or conduct is unwelcome. And that, I don't disagree with that step, but because it doesn't say, give you an option to report it somewhere else. It seems to suggest that the only way to begin the process is for me as an individual to confront my harasser directly in the first instance. And I think we need to have the alternative where someone who feels they're being harassed has the option of going to a supervisor, because it 1.2 says if the behavior persists, you go to a supervisor. But I really believe that should be a possible first step if an individual is not comfortable in confronting the harasser directly. And so I would ask that be clarified. I think that was my...
I welcome to the podium Curry Humphreys, our Director of Human Resources.
Yeah, my other point was on page 7 of 7, 5.1. Workplace harassment means engaging in a course of vexation conduct against a worker in a workplace that is known or reasonably known to be unwelcome. I think it also includes should include overheard comments, so that if I'm in a workplace and I have to listen to inappropriate comments between two fellow workers, even though they're not directed at me, I may still find the comments offensive and inappropriate. And I think the policy should reflect that it's not only comments directed at me, but comments in a conversation that two other people are having that I find inappropriate or make me uncomfortable. So I think the policy needs to be clarified to make it clear that harassment isn't just necessarily one-on-one.
If I might.
Yes, please, Ms. Humphreys.
The definition in 5.1 is actually the definition that's in the legislation as opposed to the definition for the city of Owen Sound. So we've used the definition in the legislation as it's required.
And I'm suggesting that that's not enough. If I'm, and I'll use an example, if I'm the only woman in a workplace filled with men and I have to listen to ribald comments all day,
that would still be
they're not
considered
directed to me, that still comes under harassment.
And I would suggest it would be interpreted that way, both in legislation, even if you're the only one hearing it.
That's right. So I think but I think our policy needs to make that clear. We're not obligated to simply use the occupational health and safety legislation in a policy. It's the basis for the policy. So I think it should be clear that it's not just comments that are directed at me as an individual that I find offensive, but comments directed at anybody that I find offensive, I have the right to react to.
Okay. Councillor Lemon?
Well, further back to the first point that Councillor Twallow made, I have a real problem with it being in there that if I am harassed, it's my duty to tell the person to stop. First of all, it will quite often incite the person even further. And it really is up to the corporation to look after the stopping of it. A person should not have to put themselves in jeopardy to say, this is vexatious, this is harassment, this is bullying.
One of the literature suggests that in many instances people are not aware of the fact that what they're doing is inappropriate behavior. Yes, they should know, and sometimes when it's brought to their attention, that is quite effective in ending the process. In instances where the person doesn't respond, we certainly would encourage people to come to the Human Resources Department, and in instances where they don't feel comfortable responding, we would encourage them to come to the HR department. But in the majority of instances, when it is actually brought to the perpetrator's attention, it is resolved at that point, not always. But that is what the literature indicates. So, I mean, but we can make that amendment or change.
But I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't obligatory for the person to, or when you go to HR, saying, well, did you talk to the person? I shouldn't have to talk to them if I'm uncomfortable.
If you're uncomfortable, I would never ask anyone to do that.
Thank you.
Councillor Purdon.
It seems a bit strange as a council developing a policy at this table, because there seem to be a few things that people are looking at for changes. So I'm not sure we could spend a long time on this. So I wonder whether we could provide some input to the policy and have it come back, because I have some questions or suggestions as well for the policy around having a little more substantive information on domestic violence as a form of workplace violence. And I don't want to go into all of that at this table right now. And I think that it would just strengthen the overall policy. So it's just a suggestion. It's a great starting point, this, and it's really important to have for our organization. I think it could be fine-tuned a bit, and I don't know whether we need to do that here.
You could provide, we operate on motions, so
Yes, I know.
if we have a motion to do something with this, we can move forward. That can be anything from receipt to tabling to provide feedback to HR and move forward from there.
Okay.
Any number of things.
So I would make a motion that we table this so council could provide some feedback to the Director of Human Resources and to bring back a revised, reflective of some of that feedback to council at the next council meeting.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. City Manager. Thank you, Ms. Humphries.
Wonder if the mover would consider referring it to the bylaw committee, because it is very awkward to have these sort of discussions in a full council meeting in the evening. And it might be better to go to the bylaw committee.
Councillor Dare.
Not specifically in reference to where it should go. I'm just wondering if we don't approve this, if that leaves us without a policy. It doesn't.
City Manager is saying that no, the city does have a policy in place at this time. This is an update?
Yes, it is. If you'll see under authority and date, council approved, the previous revisions have been made as recently as '09.
Okay. So motion to table, pending further discussion and with the bylaw committee.
A motion to refer this policy to the bylaw committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, yeah. Is that an?
I'm fine with that, as long as the bylaw committee can get it on, as long as the bylaw committee can get it on its agenda.
I think that would be a priority for us, even at the next meeting. I mean, we have a work schedule, but this isn't something important that
Seeing
we
a
need
lot
to
of
get to.
affirmative head nodding, so. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you very much to Ms. Humphries for answering those questions. Councillor Wright.
Just as a follow-up then, if anyone has, any of the councillors have any suggestions or ideas about it, if they could get it to either Councillor Adair or any member of us that are on the bylaw committee, then that would help. Okay.
Who are the councillors on the committee? It's Councillor Adair, Councillor Wright, Councillor Purdon.
Your Worship, if
And
councillors
Councillor
could
Lemon.
actually send that to Jeff, our staff person.
Jeff Smith.
Send it to Jeff.
Yeah.
Make sure we have it.
There we go. This is a really good example of how the committee system works very well. It serves council very well. So much discussion can occur at the committee level prior to it coming to council. So, Councillor Dare.
I'm just wondering if actually our HR director wouldn't be the best person to receive the receive the correspondence. I'm
I would
hearing
certainly anticipate that that would happen.
whispers over here. So send them to whomever you like, and we will get it to our committee.
I can't imagine for 1 minute that the Supervisor of Human Resources would let this go. Thank you. We have a report from our purchasing agent with regards to the award of tender T1311, and that is the asphalt resurfacing program. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, we'll back up. 12B3, we have a report from our Director of Financial Services. Yes, this is with regards to delivery of parking and bylaw enforcement. Council has a report and also a recommendation in front of them. Is Council's direction on this? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Could I ask Mr. Ritchie to go through his report? I think it's
Absolutely.
appropriate.
Mr. Ritchie, I'll invite you to walk Council through this report.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report stems from information we received from the Ministry of the Attorney General's office. Council and the public will recall we transferred the parking operations to police services in October of 2011, and by and large that worked very well for the city, and I believe for police services as well. But we have been informed by the Ministry of the Attorney General that that relationship cannot continue. So effective June 3rd of this year, the administration, I guess, of receipt of parking tickets and contact with the public was transferred back to City Hall. And at that time, Council asked for a follow-up report on exactly how we might continue with parking enforcement and the staffing thereof. This report is in response to that, and going through the analysis, you can see that my recommendation is certainly for the parking system itself to bring all of the operations back to City Hall to be administered by a manager within financial services. I believe would be beneficial to the parking operation and the public who will be served by that. We could invest the staff resources, and that includes training, to have knowledge directly in City Hall to answer the public's concerns and questions, the users of the system, that being special interest groups, as well as council itself, so that we currently do not have within City Hall. Moving on to staffing options, certainly part of the request was to look at enforcement that has been provided to some of our like communities. We did that, and as you can see, we are recommending, certainly for financial reasons, that we look at contracting out that service, or at least going farther along that proposal. That is in certainly the current staff that provides enforcement of the city, I believe, are doing an excellent job. However, contacting those providers, certainly there is a cost differential to the city, along with several other benefits that would accrue to us. At this time, we do not feel we have an adequate home within City Hall administration for bylaw enforcement services, and we're recommending they stay with police services. I should add, in discussions with the police chief, we feel certainly if council takes option A, moving parking enforcement back, that they also should do option B, which is also to transfer crossing guards here as well. I would certainly link A and B, and C and D, I believe, stand on their own. So with that, Your Worship, I look forward to any questions council might have.
Thank you for the review. Councillor Lemon.
Yes, through Your Worship, to the Director of Finance. The numbers that you used in your report, I'm going back to when there was the parking group, and the cost of enforcement seemed to me to be a lot greater than that in the reports that were done at that time. Is this a rollback of the hours? Because I seem to remember the cost being higher than that in the reports we had. Maybe my memory's faulty.
The numbers I have are based on our 2013 budget, so those are the numbers that we currently operate with.
Okay, all right, that's fine then, if that's the case. I just thought when we did the parking budget, if you remember, when the parking committee was around, I thought there were some different numbers.
I don't believe so. I think the 2013 budget is the same as previously, to my recollection, Councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Wright?
Thank you, Your Worship. The report doesn't say anything about revenue from our parking meters, and I'm just asking, do you feel that the revenue by having by contracting out would be the same as the revenue we get from in-house or from police board?
I believe the revenues would be unchanged. It's really expenses. The revenues would be unchanged, in my opinion.
And my other question then is, I believe the report, and I was just kind of looking for it, recommends that the parking enforcement staff that we would contract out would also be responsible for crossing guards. And is that what you're saying? I think I found it. That parking enforcement staff, they are the first backup for crossing guards. So it makes sense that the responsibility for crossing guards also be moved with any move for the parking enforcement. We're bringing them over here, and then are we going to, who's going to be responsible for the crossing guards?
Certainly at this moment, finance would be responsible for the crossing guards as well, Your Worship.
So you're not thinking of contracting out the crossing guards?
No.
Thank you.
Councillor Purdon?
So I have just some questions to kind of get my head straight here. I've always been just a little bit confused. We have bylaw enforcement, we have parking enforcement, and we have crossing guards. All of that went to the police, and now we do need legally to bring back parking and
if we could just keep the discussion to members of council and staff, please.
My understanding was the Minister of the Attorney General said that
technically
parking needs to come back to the city, or is that just the payment of parking tickets needs to come back?
Go ahead,
I just
Mr.
need
Ritchie.
some help with this.
Yep.
I guess the people who wish to pay a parking ticket need to pay it at City Hall. They can no longer pay at police services. That, I believe, is what the Ministry of the Attorney General said. As well, I believe and again, the city manager can certainly correct me if I have misinterpreted this, or I would certainly defer to the police chief as well. And if you wish to have contact about your ticket, you should go through City Hall as opposed to the police services building. That's my understanding.
Just going to invite our Chief of Police, Chief Sornberger, to the podium. He may be able to respond more directly to your concerns.
I just want to make sure the question is about who enforces the parking, whether it has to come back to the city, or whether that's just the recommendation.
I would say the recommendation is it comes back to the city. It isn't a requirement.
The answer is no, it does not. Enforcement does not have to come back to the city. As an example, the Toronto Police run parking enforcement for the city of Toronto. Enforcement stays with the municipality. We also still issue parking tickets as well. So it's not like we can't do that. That's what we do.
Thank you very much. More questions?
I just had another question, that if it did come back, if parking does come back to the city, parking enforcement, are there things that the parking enforcement folks are doing now that would be lost if we contracted out? Are they just doing parking enforcement, or are those people also doing other things that you wouldn't be able to contract out as easily?
I think, like all of our employees, certainly our parking enforcement staff are ambassadors for the city, and I'm sure the chief has certainly entrenched that in them, as we do in all of our staff. That may also be entrenched in any contracted service, but certainly, as I say, with all city employees, we believe are ambassadors for the city.
Because the bylaw staff, in fact, or the parking enforcement folks are in fact currently employed by the police chief, I do believe that we should allow their boss to speak to what they do today.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to answer the question, the parking enforcement officers are responsible. Obviously, their first job is enforcing parking. They also do all meter repairs, all the spot checks, gather all the coin from the pay-as-you-go positions. They run different errands for us, involved in all of those same things, because we do have a vehicle. The school crossings, to give you an idea of how many we do, we did 326 hours of school crossings, and that's after we eliminated the nutrition break as of January the 1st. So we were covering, 1 week we had 2 weeks straight, we did 5 school crossings where we had 5 of our employees, the 3 parking people, which we're down to 2 now. That's probably why the difference in money, Councillor Lemon. But we had the 3 parking enforcement and the 2 bylaw doing the school crossings, because I would have had to bring police officers in if we were doing that, because that's how many people I have on a platoon, so we would have brought overtime in to cover that without that resource. The other thing that I will point out is that the school crossings, some of them start as early as 8:15. City Hall doesn't open until 8:30, so that's a logistics that has to be worked out as well. The other thing that is different is that we have supervision on the parking enforcement from 9 till 6, which is when your bylaws go. So City Hall closing at 4:30, you'd have to work on the logistics of that as well. But that's the duties that they do. The other things that they do, there were 23 different incidents where they called in matters that had happened on the street. Like 6 of those were motor vehicle collisions, a fall on the street, a missing person. So they get involved in that end of police work as well. And most recently, 2 weeks ago, calling in a break and enter in progress at a downtown business store where we arrested somebody coming out of the place. So that's part of what they do.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Purdon. I might ask you to stay at the podium
I'll
for
stay
a few
here, Your
moments.
Worship.
I'm thinking there might be some more. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going back to crossing guards, so if other councillors want to talk about...
Please go ahead, Councillor Wright.
Thank you. I guess through you, please, Your Worship, to Director of Finance, my concern over the parking, over the crossing guards coming back, and of course the Chief's just mentioned a few of the problems, is the fact that we're not going to have parking attendants. We're going to be contracting them out. How do we know that who we contract out to is going to allow us to use those meter people as crossing guards?
Through you, Worship, certainly if they're a contract service, we are contracting to hire hours of service. If we ask them to certainly do what we've contracted for, which is parking meter enforcement, that is what they will do. If we are paying them on a contract basis and we train certain staff members to also be crossing guards, I am quite sure they will do that as well.
Well, that's not in the motion. There's nothing mentioned in the original motion about parking attendants. And when we go out to with an RFP, I suppose we'll go out with an RFP. That will have to be in the RFP then. That there's a possibility that they're going to have to do crossing guard service, or they will be doing crossing guard service, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Then my second question to you then is. In the past, when we've looked after crossing guards, it's been quite a job, calling in people to fulfill and filling them and hiring, etc. How much staff time is this going to take, and are we going to have to hire additional staff to handle this?
If I could, Your Worship, certainly in my tenure here, there's been quite a back and forth between the City of Owen Sound staff and police services as to who would be looking after crossing guards, and for the most part, it has been with police services. And I guess what I'm thinking is best for the city is that we have this discussion, and it's great we're having it, that we establish where exactly will some of these places roost, so that we, as well as the public, as well as the staff, will know exactly where is the reporting structure. As the chief has mentioned in our discussions, if he no longer has the crossing guards to use as the police or the parking enforcement officers to use as his backup, he can't look after crossing guards. if City Hall administration is going to look after parking enforcement, we would use them the same way the police employs them now, to be our first responders in case we need crossing guard backup. So they would report to City Hall, they would report originally through financial services, and we would conduct business just like we do many other operations within the City Hall. There would be a reporting structure, there would be management, just as there is in many other services we offer here.
I'm going to go directly to the city manager. I think some of that discussion also covered off some of Councillor Purdon's earlier concerns as well. You might want to just a couple more minutes, maybe. City manager.
Well, it seemed only reasonable, since the police chief got to respond, that I should be able to respond.
Absolutely.
So, in the report, I just highlight again that one of the challenges throughout this entire process has been communication. And I think all of us would have to agree that we've had to work hard at that, and the police chief and I have done that. But in splitting something between all of the administrative matters related to parking being at City Hall and enforcement being with police services, I think that does not do a good job of value added for the citizens of Owen Sound. And that's ultimately, we want the most efficient system we can get, and we want the most effective system for the residents of the city. And that's my concern. Yes, we could leave enforcement with police services. It's the, according to the numbers we have today, it is the most expensive way to do it. But perhaps even more importantly, it breaks it into two different organizations trying to respond to citizen concerns. And that is a concern of mine, and is one that I would say to council, you must consider that very seriously.
Councillor Chamberlain.
Yes, I would like to just follow through with on the recommendation about the idea of going, the idea of having a request for a proposal for a contracted staff. And both Colleen, Councillor Purdon and myself are on the DIA, and we have been very excited about how things have been going quite well with all the parking, and going forward with their study this year. We were talking about what this contracted staff, would this be something like the commissionaires? Would this be something, or whatever would request to the proposal? That's what we would be talking about, a lowered amount. And we even wondered if there wouldn't be an opportunity to work with the DIA and have them housed there as part of that role of being ambassadors. So those were some things we talked about, and they were positive.
If I could, Your Worship, certainly I would always recommend, if it's coming back to City Hall, they would be staffed at City Hall, they would be reporting to a manager within financial services, and we would certainly want to have it all in one house or the other.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon and Councillor Purdon.
Chief, I don't know the answer to this, but how many crossing guards do we have?
I'm sorry, I
Roughly.
don't know off the top of my head. I have approximately 20 locations that we're
It
looking
just
at.
seems like 5 being off at once seems a very high absenteeism.
We had sickness, a fall on the street with a broken leg, things like that occurred, and they all piled up in the one 2-week period.
Okay, I just wasn't sure of the number of crossing guards we had, because I see them in a lot of different places.
Yeah,
Are you
To cover
interested?
off 326 hours is a lot of hours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Do you have more questions? Are there any more questions for the chief, or can I give the chief leave to take a seat? Councillor Purdon? I guess not.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Just a quick question for the chief and then a question for Mr. Ritchie. How many staff do you have right now who do the parking and the bylaw enforcement currently?
There are 2 parking enforcement officers and there are 2 bylaw enforcement officers.
So 4 in total?
4 in total.
Right. And so the idea is that the 2 bylaw enforcement officers would stay with police, at least what's being suggested in this report?
That's correct.
And
They
the
would
2
stay.
parking would move to the city hall. So the question then for Mr. Ritchie is, would that be who would manage those folks? Because we understand that there's, staffing is very tight and management staff is tight. So who would be supervising those workers at City Hall?
Through your worship, I'm very fortunate to have, I think, a very strong staff within financial services management staff, and it would be the manager of revenue who would be directly supervising the parking enforcement officers.
Thank you.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, worship, and I'd start by saying, I don't have a question for the chief, so.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. I think over the last year and a half or so, or close to 2, I guess, I think the enforcement and administration of parking has been improved in that time. I think it's gone fairly well. There have been some communication issues, but I think we've worked through those by and large. What I will say is I'd echo the city manager's comment. If administration is in one place and enforcement is in another, I personally don't believe that will work. I don't think that will work well for anyone. On top of that, further down in the motion, it talks about the recommendation. If there's an opportunity for us to issue a request for proposal, and that's not the debate tonight, what it may or may not come back like, but if there's an opportunity there to save 30% of our costs on that, we have to, I believe, explore that. That doesn't mean we're going to do it, but we certainly have to. There's lots of questions that have been raised tonight, but I think it's incumbent upon us to at least explore that. So with those comments in mind, Your Worship, I would move the entire recommendation.
Thank you. We have a recommendation on the floor. Further discussion to the recommendation? All those in favor? Opposed? Councillor Purdon, that motion is carried. Thank you. And I do want to commend not only police services, but also the parking enforcement officers for tremendous work that they do, that they continue to do on behalf of this community, and that they're very valued members of our employment. And we certainly look forward to a mutually satisfying resolution as we move forward to provide the best service for this community that we can. So I thank you for that. We have a report from the purchasing agent. Now, we are discussing the asphalt resurfacing program. It's council's direction on this. This is one of those ones that there is simply never enough dollars to fill all the potholes. Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you. I would move the recommendation that the 2013 asphalt resurfacing contract be awarded to the lowest bidder, Harold Sutherland Construction, in the amount of $170,000.
Sure. I guess any questions from council? Now, it could be the volume of material that we see, but I'm wondering what roads are being approved. Director of Operations, was this within a set of minutes from the Omnibus Direct Operations Advisory Committee pack?
Yes, it was, Your Worship. For council and for the public's reference, it was in the Operations Advisory Committee minutes from last council meeting, so if someone wants to go back and reference, but for purposes of today, I can quickly go through those roads just so those members of public and council will know which roads will be resurfaced this year.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you.
That includes First Avenue West from 10th Street to 12th Street West, 12th Avenue East from 16th Street East to 15th Street B East, and 15th Street B East from 15th Street A East to 13th Avenue East. And in simplicity, I believe that's a few streets in behind the Shoppers Drug Mart on 16th Street East. That's the best way to put it. Yes, I can repeat that.
Mr. McRoberts, thank you for that. Are these going to be posted on the city website anytime soon, or are they already up on our website?
We can get them up.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful.
Absolutely, yes.
As people, drive around some of our bumpy roads, they do like to know which ones are seeing some patch jobs or resurfacing. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much, and I know we don't have a very big budget, but I know there's going to be some very disappointed people when they find out that their very bad road is going to be resurfaced. Maybe though it'll be on the list for next year. I know we could probably find this out, and I will try and find it out, but do you know when the county is going to resurface 3rd Avenue? I know it's on the books for this year. I just wondered if they had told you when is it?
Last indication I had from the county was that they were looking at resurfacing, just strictly resurfacing, not reconstructing 3rd Avenue East from 10th Street, I believe, to 15th, and maybe partially beyond that. And I believe they're talking about the fall, but I don't have an official confirmation from the county.
There are many roads, as Councillor Wright has said, that certainly are in need, and clearly our budget is stretched to highest priorities. The one stretch of road that concerns me specifically would be the stretch of road that is very highly trafficked, and that is a short piece between as you approach the compost site, and that is a piece of gravel road that has an enormous amount of dust, has a huge traffic number of vehicles traveling back and forth as we're encouraging people to take their garden refuse to the compost site. I would urge that get on the agenda of the Operations Advisory Committee for a real look at least something to control the dust along that stretch. It's quite problematic. Mr. McRoberts.
Yes, thank you, and I'd be happy to bring up a report, and our staff can bring a report to Operations Advisory Committee on that specific section road and provide some considerations and recommendations.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Yeah, one question. There's a process called tar and chip. Would we consider doing that because it's a lot less expensive for that stretch of road?
Mr. McRoberts.
Through your worship, absolutely, that would be one of the considerations that we can bring forward to the committee to consider that, or a full-scale asphalt surfacing. Those will be options that will be provided, and we can make a recommendation as to what to bring forward, and that committee can make recommendations as well to council.
Thank you so much. Okay, to the recommendation, Mr. McManaman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just one question. Just thought of it. The budget for this, for asphalt resurfacing is $200,000. The quote for the streets that Mr. McRoberts just discussed was $170,000. So there may be the opportunity to do additional road work.
I would confirm that that'd be correct. I just wanted to make sure that the other remaining dollars weren't committed elsewhere, but yes.
So if and when that happens, if council could just be informed of that additional section that's going to be done, so we'd be up to date.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report. Again, this is with regards to the East Hill booster pumping station, and this involves the maintaining the hydraulic grade line for not only current water pressure levels to meet the city's needs, but also future fire flow levels. What is council's direction? Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, I would move the recommendation. I'm very pleased it came in way under budget. If it was that much over budget, I'd probably be very upset. But this is good for the city and for future expansion. And recently tonight we were informed of a hotel that's going up there. And this adds to the rationale for doing this work. It's necessary work. It's not window dressing. It's base service levels. And we need to do that. So I move the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, please, to Brad McRoberts. In the letter from Mr. Burnside, there's something in there somewhere that says we should add an additional $150,000 for hydro. Is that just for this project, or is that ongoing?
That would be, the recommendation right now is strictly to award the contract for the work to completed. A separate budget, part of the same main capital budget, but separately, the city would endeavor to have some hydro works done through Hydro One. So there'll be some upgrades. We would contract directly with them as a city with Hydro One, not through this contractor. So there would be some work required. It would be a one-time capital cost. It would not be an ongoing operating cost.
Okay, discussion? Any questions? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the purchasing agent with regards to conversion to natural gas and other work that's required at the water treatment plant. There was only one bid received. Councillor Purdon.
Yes. I'll move that we go forward, although the one bid is unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. Councillor Body, thank you.
Well, I'd just point out that it's still under budget of 16,250, so it is a good quote, even if it's one quote. You gotta like that.
Discussion? Yeah, Councillor Purdon. Yes, Councillor Purdon moved it. Mr. McRoberts.
And just to give council some comfort, when we do get one tender, that tender submission is always in the pretext that there'll be competition. They don't know when they submit their tender that they'll be the only tender, so their price would have been competitive.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We have a report with a recommendation from staff with regards to the Owen Sound Skateboard Park. This is also recognizing a $100,000 contribution from the Owen Sound Kiwanis Club, which the city is very grateful for. And the budget put forward is $279,598 plus HST. Councillor Purdon.
So I'd move the recommendation to award this contract to Mervyn Construction, and I'm really happy that this is moving forward.
Okay. Councillor Lemon.
Yeah, when I was looking at the finance thing, if you could move the screen down, where we were seeing the various costs, there's a whole question, I thought it was on that one, where the city was making a charge. There, yeah, that's the page there. Development charges and park reserve, is that revenue or is that a charge?
That's revenue through your worship, so there's money in those reserves and they're appropriately spent on a recreation project.
Okay, that's fine. I wasn't sure whether it was a charge or revenue. I wanted to make sure that we weren't charging money out of Parks Reserve against this project. Thank you.
Councillor Body.
Thank you, Worship. I just was going to ask Councillor Purdon for clarification. She's moving the whole recommendation as stated. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Further discussion? Councillor McManaman.
To the director, the timing on this construction?
With the council recommendation tonight, Ms. Allerton and I will have some negotiations with the low bidder to try to reduce price. I think at this point in the season, we would, although the successful bidder can order product and get ready, I think we'd like to wait until after the fair. The contract will come back to council for September 9th, so it will start early in the fall.
Okay, Councillor Adair.
I guess just following up on that, with planned ribbon cutting or opening when?
Bring you a date back when we bring the contract back, but this fall.
Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wonder if we could have the pictures of the potential park put up on the screen so that we could have a look at it and the public could see it. It looks pretty exciting. Oh, you haven't got it. Oh, that's too bad. Okay. I could send it to you.
Your worship, I can get these loaded up on our websites, okay? People can go to this.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
They'll be able to also go to this meeting, and
Okay.
it'll be a link and
Okay.
under this.
Okay.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, further discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. And I would urge staff to work with the contractors to bring this in significantly lower than the approved budget tonight. And if there's any way to modify this to be a skate and bike park, is that what it is? It would help if it was referred to that in all future documentation, if we refer to it as a skate bike park. It just broadens the number of people and the types of use for an investment of this size. Thank you. Moving forward, we have a report from a purchasing agent with regard to the proposal 1317 for the operation of the Owen Sound transit service. That report begins on page 128, and you will find a recommendation there. Where's council's direction? Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I'm not sure who the question is to. I suppose Mr. McRoberts or Mr. Ritchie, if they could take us through the options, the preferred option, I suppose.
Sure.
Okay, through your worship, I'll certainly walk through the options. If there are any specific questions about the budget, the Director of Financial Services would be happy to answer those.
Thank you.
If council recalls, on the last meeting we had of council discussing transit, they deferred basically their decision with respect to a 3 or 4 route system to the inclusion within an RFP. The RFP, the direction from council was to go out to an RFP looking at 2 service delivery models. One delivery service model 1 was basically we buy the buses and the operator operates the buses. Service delivery option 2 is for the operator to both buy the buses and operate them. So they become the owners of the buses. And they would simply pay those back over an 8-year period as part of their contract. The RFP also included 2 options with respect to service levels, which would be the 3 and 4 route system. Service level 1 being the 4 route system, service level 2 being the 3 route system. 4 proposals were received, 2 were disqualified, 2 were considered valid and reviewed by staff. And that evaluation concluded that both proponents were qualified to complete the work. Cost became fundamentally the deciding factor. We are recommending at this point, as part of the recommendation, that the contract be awarded to First Student Canada. They have operated transit systems within Aurelia, the town of Orangeville, the city of Barrie, as well as Windsor-Tecumseh. A reference check within each of those organizations was very positive. The organizations that have retained First Student Canada spoke very positively about the service they've provided. The recommendation is there to award that contract to them. We as staff are recommending that council proceed with service delivery option 2, which is that they provide the buses and own the buses and operate them on our behalf. That turned out to be the most economical option. We are, however, though, asking council to provide direction with respect to which service level they wish to proceed with, that being a 4-route system or a 3-route system. If I can reference to the summary table, table 2. Table 2 indicates to council that the savings anywhere ranges from about $130,000 to $150,000. That's just the cost between the 2 different options as presented by First Student Canada. So that's the type of savings we can represent. When we presented our earlier studies with respect to Route 3 or a 4-route or a 3-route system, we did indicate to you as well that there was some potential for ridership loss based upon
The transit study that was done and the formulas that they use, the estimation I would suggest is rather high, which is $100,000 loss in revenue. That's based upon ridership numbers that might be applicable to larger urban centers, where they believe that the ridership in Owen Sound is less of an elected type of ridership. And on that basis, I suspect that number is probably high, but still that needs to be considered by council in their consideration of the savings they might realize with a 4 or 3 route system over a 4 route system, and also recognize that there might be some loss in ridership. What that may be in the end, I can't definitively define, but only give you some estimations.
Thank you. Councillor Lemon.
Well, first of all, I would request that the route system, that we have a public meeting on whichever option of service level is recommended. I don't think we really should make a final decision until we've heard from the public, the people who use it. I disagree with the engineer in the statement of loss of revenue. I think it may be more severe than that, not less severe. There is other alternatives that people have, and they're going to take advantage of that. Personally, I would like a 4-route system. No question about it, it would be the best option. I think the losses would be higher, and I think it's going in the wrong direction, because it decreases the accessibility of residents of Owen Sound to the system. During your report, you mentioned the city of Barrie. I understood that Barrie did not renew the contract with First Student. Is that correct? I asked about that.
Ms. Corsi.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the Councillor Lemon, I did speak with the manager of transit for the city of Barrie today, and he indicated that they're going to a 3P process, and that the contract with their current operator will end at the end of 2014. Because it's a very different process, it adds different players for the shortlisting to go to an RFP down the road. So they're, for instance, adding buildings, et cetera, to that whole proposal.
Thank you.
Any other members of council? Councillor Purdon.
I would also like to speak in favor of maintaining a 4-route system. I've had many contacts from the public, and at our public meetings to date, there's been calls for an improvement and expansion of the transit system, which is really a struggle for this council in terms of the costs. But there's been no call to reduce the service level. And I think if we're looking at an 8-year contract, we need to be building in capacity and opportunities for expansion of the transit service, really getting behind transit as a city, doing a much better job of marketing and engaging people, and building the transit system and not going the other way. I think as a progressive council, public transit is critical as a way of providing equity and equality for citizens in our community. Not everyone has a car. Not everyone can afford to run a car. And our transit system has been a really critical part of people's lives, so they can do everyday things like shop and get to work. And cutting the transit routes, I know at our last meeting when we discussed this, there was a sense that, well, it's almost the same, but it's not almost the same. A 4-route system is a better service, and everyone who I've talked to who uses transit wants a 4-route system. They don't want a 3-route system. I think that if you factor in the potential loss of revenue, and according to this report, there may also be some loss in terms of revenues if we have a smaller transit system as well. that we may, in the end, be further ahead, even on a cost side of things, with a 4-route system. And this is our opportunity as a council to really get behind transit, in our community. There have been some hard decisions made already in terms of shutting down the terminal. That was not appreciated by most people who've talked to me. But I think maintaining a 4-route system is critical. So I would move that we move forward with a 4-route system in our consideration.
Okay, so it's a motion currently. Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I was just about to move a motion. It seemed to me that the 3 and 4 route system was the question here, and perhaps set that over here for a second and deal with the rest of the recommendation. But I guess there's a motion on the floor. So that's fine. Then to the motion, whether we should have a 4 route or a 3 route. We've had many public discussions over this. We did have a public meeting. We did have a meeting, last operations meeting with many people attending. You know, I don't think there's a right answer here. There's just, on one hand, we have an opportunity to reduce, we talk about reducing our footprint. We have an opportunity to reduce the cost here of $150,000 a year, over $1.1 million over 8 years. We have our hands tied on many issues coming at budget time. As we all know, we've sat here for days at a time and wrung our hands over things that we really don't have any control over, insurance and things like that, weather-related events. If we have an opportunity here to save the taxpayers $150,000 a year at 1.1, I think we should take it. That's my opinion. So I won't be voting in favor of the motion. Thank you. And sorry, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wright.
Thank you very much. I have attended the public meetings on busing and listened, and I have certainly I've been very happy that I'm not on operations when you have had to make some of these decisions. I have no problem really with the demise of the terminal. Having visited a number of communities, there are not terminals in various communities. In fact, most of them use their city hall for their buses, and they use the city hall as a place to go if it's storming or raining and to get out of the weather. And we talk about placing the bus shelters in strategic places, so I'm hoping that that's something. I also feel that we do not run a good service right now. I do not think we cover the city. I know there are subdivisions that are not receiving bus service that people are going to be that do walk, that take the bus, and I've said it before. You know that old saying: if you build it, they will come. I really feel that if we provide a better bus service, more people will use it, and so I'm going to support the motion. I think a 4-route is a good system. And looking at, I know Stratford is a much bigger area than we do, but they run 9 systems down there, and here we are, we're going to cut down to 3. I don't think if we want our city to grow, then we're going to have to provide services to the area where we want growth. And so I'll support the motion.
Councillor Lemon?
Yes, Your Worship, I will also support the motion. One of the things that transit isn't a luxury item. Transit to some people is how they go to the doctor, how they go shopping, how they go to the hospital, how they go and meet friends. And if a person is on a fixed income, the difference between a cab fare and a transit fare is substantial over time. We must remember that the people who use the transit systems are also taxpayers in this community. If you live in an apartment building, a portion of your rent goes to tax. If you're in assisted housing, the province of Ontario contributes to the tax on that. So we have to remember that, to me, transit is not, as I said, a luxury. It's almost a right, and I think it really is. Because we just are aware of the Ontarians with Disability Act. And one of the points in that is to make the community accessible. And it has to be economically accessible as well as physically accessible. And yes, there could be improvements to our routes. I can give you a couple that would save us some time, which will allow us to expand to more areas. But going to a 3-route system is a step going back into the time when, well, we don't worry about the people who use transit. We should worry about them. We want more seniors here, and a lot of seniors use the transit system. We're sending the wrong message. I will support definitely the motion.
Councillor Body.
First question, Your Worship, of Mr. Ritchie. I notice I'm looking at the 3-route contractor supplied budget that's set out closer to the bottom. And it states provincial gas tax rebate presently, well, it indicates 278. It seems to me that we already took a hit in the actual amount we received a meeting or two ago, which was adding another percentage onto the taxes for the cost. With 3-route, you've got 127,926. Can you explain why that drop is?
Through you, Your Worship, I'm actually going to refer to, I believe, Table 3. And the very last one is what the councillor is speaking of, the 3-route system, contractor-owned buses. And certainly Mr. McRoberts has gone over the comparison between the two bidders. And this is taking the low bid and trying to refer it back to what our actual budget is. And the budget that we had for 2013 net was just $754,000 to operate our transit system. And in order to do that for 2013, as you know, we took all of the gas tax for transit and applied it to reduce that operating budget. That's the first year we did that, and it was to offset the increase we were facing. Moving ahead under the comparison, the 3-route system, contractor-owned buses, we would be down to $648,000 as a cost to the taxpayer, net cost. We need to maintain a base of what our expenses are that the province compares to say that we can apply all the gas tax. That particular cost, we would be below that base and we would not be able to apply all of the gas tax there. So we would put the difference into a reserve and be able to use it for future capital needs related to transit. So you will notice the cost really doesn't change our net cost, operating cost between the 3-route system, whether it's city-owned buses or contractor-owned buses, but the amount of gas tax that we would have available for capital needs changes under each of those. And the most economical overall for the city is the contractor-owned 3-route system.
So that capital amount that you're talking about that would come from the provincial gas tax rebate that we wouldn't be able to spend on operations, we'd be able to spend on potentially putting in better bus terminals?
Anything related to transit capital, correct.
Shelters, sorry, what did I say? Yeah, okay, shelters and corners and things to make the route work better.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. As we've gone through this, we've looked at this for the last couple of years. We hired an expert to give an opinion to operations in search to be more efficient. You know, we all know that we've got what's cost. Concerned Owen Sound taxpayers out there that are concerned about our spending at City Hall. And we should always be looking to be more efficient. The difference between a 4-route system and a 3-route system, we've still got half-hour service pickup with a 3-route system. It may be a little bit different as to which corner you have to walk to, but it is still going to be a half-an-hour pickup system, which is still pretty efficient, and perhaps more efficient running a route around the west side, a route around the east side, and a route heading west and east, which is the planned 3-route system. This would free up some money to be able to build shelters on corners, possibly do some advertising to help promote the buses and try and get things turned around and picked up, so that down the road we can expand and perhaps add routes and do things once we get rolling again, if we could get more people using it. Right now, given the costs and things, and my concern for the tax increases that we're looking at this year, the costs overall to the city, I'm not supporting the motion to go with a 4-route system. If it should fail, then I would support a motion to go with the 3-route system.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Throughout all of the discussion on the transit system, the one message I heard loud and clear was how important the transit system is to the people who use it and depend on it. I've never argued with that point. The other message that I heard loud and clear was that they wanted council to save the transit system. But most of the people I spoke to one-on-one understood the financial challenges that the city faces and the need to fulfill our financial responsibility to all the taxpayers. The 3-route system is an opportunity to save in the range of $150,000 a year and provide virtually the same geographic coverage that the 4-route system covers. The reason that works is because the 3-route system eliminates a lot of duplication. The 3-route system only worked if you eliminate the terminal. But a 3-route system operating on a half-hour basis will cover virtually the same ground, provide us, as Councillor Boddy pointed out, with more capital for improved ancillary transit facilities. The other message, and again Councillor Boddy alluded to this, that I'm hearing loud and clear, is the need for the city to get its financial house in better order. Now, it's not just people concerned about the cost of transit, although the cost of transit is significant for the city. It's many other areas. And when we head into the 2014 budget in about 5 weeks, we're going to be facing some very significant challenges. If we fail at this point to take advantage of one significant opportunity to have a significant budget impact without having a significant impact on service level, if we fail to do that, then in my view, we are failing in our financial responsibility to all the taxpayers. If this was about a significant change in the quality of the transit service, I might feel differently. I'm sure I'd feel differently. But I believe sincerely that a 3-route system without a terminal provides virtually the same coverage on virtually the same timetable around the city. And given that and all the other financial pressures that we face, I cannot support maintaining a 4-route system when I firmly believe that the 3-route system will meet the needs of everyone who wants to use transit and everyone who needs to use transit, and help us meet our obligation to the taxpayers to make sure that we're spending the money that they trust us with as wisely as possible. I hope that there will be a subsequent motion, and I will support the 3-route system.
Councillor Wright, then Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, thank you. In the one paragraph that's on the report, it says that the contractor will have up to 6 months to take a look at the routes that are already in place and then come back with changes. I guess the The one complaint that in fact, it's not just one complaint, what I hear most of is, the bus will take me somewhere, but it doesn't pick me up. And that's why they don't, I can't take the bus because I can get the bus to where I want to go, but the bus doesn't come and pick me up and take me home. And so that's why the bus isn't running, and that's why they're not on the bus, because the bus isn't running. So I guess I'm asking, is this new contractor, is he going to, or are they going to take a look at the routes as far as maybe providing a different route or expanding a route? I mean, I don't expect them to come back in and say we're going to do the same 4 routes that we're doing now, or we're going to do the same 3 routes or whatever, and shorten them. When I looked at the 3-route system, and it is a bit shorter and it is different, but the 4-route system isn't going to places and coming back where it needs to go.
Mr. McRoberts.
Through you, Your Worship. The 6 month isn't so much for the contractor to determine that. It's really meant to be we've given some conceptual ideas of what a 3-route system or a 4-route system would look like. I think it's of value to basically consult with that contractor, to work with them, and they may have advice or suggestions as to how that might be tweaked. But that's the essential purpose of that. The bigger challenge that staff will have once a decision's made by council is that there are changes that need to be implemented that will take time for us to implement. We'll need to make sure we go through a proper notification process with the public and the users to make sure that they're aware of the changes, they know the timing of the changes. If, for example, we do go to a 3-route system, if we're at a 3-route system, there'll be some time required to basically get some shelters either relocated or constructed to meet the requirements of that 3-route system as it changes. And we'll need to implement those before we get it. I think the key here is we want to make sure that we have all our ducks in order before we change the route system formally, and that's why we're suggesting a 6-month period there to implement.
Councillor Lemon?
Well, first of all, there's a humongous difference between a 3-route system and a 4-route system. I travel the buses, I use the buses and on a regular basis, and I know the routes. And I see some adverse problems, for instance, for the 14th Street West seniors in the large 7-story building. There's a lot of impact here. And I have absolutely no faith in what has been produced by the consultant we had, because the consultant we had completely missed the point that under the Ontarians with Disabilities Act, we are required to charge exactly the same amount for persons using the disability as for the public transit. That was supposed to have been into effect, I think it was January 1st of this year. We still aren't in compliance. And the consultant we hired never reported this to us as an issue. The current routes that don't work were not the design of the people operating the bus system. They were designed of the city. The fact that we haven't put bus shelters where it would be logically necessary, as an example at the Bayshore, where there's also a senior center in the old McQuay Tannery, that should have been done 5 years ago and people would start using the system. We're the problem with the transit system, not the users. And we've got to get people out there and understand the routes, who really understand it. And I feel very strongly that this is a mistake, and it's on the backs of the people who can least afford it. Yeah, I pay taxes here. I use the transit system. So yeah, because I'm subsidizing myself or whatever. But public transit should be a public right. Leaving a person in their home for a long period of time who has limited revenue. I just thank heaven that we shied away about cutting the Saturday service, which was recommended at one point. That would have been from Friday at just after supper to Monday morning. People would not be able to go places if they didn't have the money for a taxi fare and didn't have the money for transit. I think we're walking into waters. And if we go down to a 3-route system, somebody will say, oh, look at the money we saved. I think it's going to be a disaster for the transit system because, number one, the three-route system was proposed, had nowhere for washroom facilities for the persons who were driving the buses. Someone said, well, they can go into a restaurant. I don't think we really have the right to do that. I don't think this three-route system concept has been entirely worked out. And I feel that we should have a public meeting to allow the people who use the system a chance to have their final comment on this, because this is going to be a draconian cut. And I think you'd be surprised how many in the business community support the transit system, because I've certainly heard from the downtown people. They want the four-route system to continue.
Councillor Purdon and Councillor McMenamin.
I just want to wrap up. I have absolutely no understanding of why a cut in service from 4 routes to 3 routes is almost the same. I don't see the 3-route system as almost the same. It's not going to be providing the same service for people, and it's moving the wrong way for transit. As a community, in the next 8 years, if we look forward, we need to be moving forward and getting people using transit. That's where the future lies, not reducing transit. I just don't know why we would even think of not investing in transit in our community. It makes no sense to me. I think it's a poor argument to say that 3 is as good as 4, so let's have 3. It's not accurate. 3 is not going to be as good as 4. 4 is better, and it's marginal at that. People would like more transit. I think if we want transit to be a success in our community, we have to get behind it. And that means as taxpayers, we have to pay the taxes that's going to give us a viable transit system. And I agree with Councillor Wright that we need to do more thinking about how the routes are used and how well they meet the needs of our community. How well do we get people engaged to get them on transit? How well do we market our transit system? These are all things that need to be looked at. But by cutting the basic service to the extent that the 3-route system is suggesting, I think is just going totally in the wrong direction. So I just want to pull that together. I don't think you can just put it out. Well, 3 is the same as 4. It's not.
Councillor McMenamin.
Thank you, Worship. Question for Mr. McRoberts. You're proposing the contract be for 8 years. Why is that?
Through your worship, the reason why 8 years was proposed is that was considered to be an expected life expectancy of a transit vehicle. So it would allow the contractor and the provision of us providing a vehicle as well as them providing a vehicle to be able to recover their costs before the contract was complete.
Thank you.
Councillor Chamberlain and Councillor Adair.
Yes, and I will be in support of the 4-route system. I think there's a lot of change coming down, and I really don't want to see the ridership lost. I agree with both Councillor Wright and Councillor Purdon that we need more people on the buses, and I was reading that report about the greening of Owen Sound, and that would mean more of us working and using the buses. And because of the change, I know we're talking about a 6-month transitional period, but there will be a lot of change. What I mostly heard was how satisfied the people who do use the 4-route system are with the people that drive the buses, the people in the terminal. They like a lot of things about our buses. And this is a big loss to our community around the change this is what we're making. I think in the future, with everybody's input, that we may want to expand our routes. Certainly we want to get some people to the movie theaters, and we want to get some people to the new stores. So I think we'll be expanding our routes, and I think we'll be expanding our service. We'll need a hospital route and that kind of thing. So I will go for the 4-route system.
Councillor Adair.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've certainly been giving transit a lot of thought in my somewhat long tenure here at City Council, and we've done all kinds of things with transit. We've gone to a 45-minute route that was almost disastrous and destroyed that. We've had this 4-route system for quite some time. It was developed by people from out of town. And so I've had to ask myself, what what is the purpose of transit in Owen Sound? And I really think for a community our size that's probably a little bit under the cusp of having enough people to really support a transit system, it's to serve our priority neighborhoods. So I have to ask myself, how best do we do that? Given all the financial pressures that we have, and I hear scary numbers coming out that we're looking at a 5 to 7% tax increase this year, which is quite frightening. I would think that if there was anyone on council who did not support public transit, the route to go, pardon the pun, would be to move a motion to eliminate public transit, which would almost bring our budget back into complete balance, and we could move forward with a 0% tax increase. But I don't hear anyone saying that. I don't. There have been some implications that depending on how you vote tonight is whether you support public transit or not. I take some exception to that. That is, I think, false. I think that everyone sitting around here supports public transit. So 3 routes or 4 routes, which better serves our priority neighborhoods? I really think that if we were to take a blank map of Owen Sound and forget that we've had a 4-route system, one that was developed by people from out of town based on there being a terminal, that you would develop for a community of our size with our population a 3-route system, one serving the west side, one serving the east side, and one linking them by traveling across town. I think with some thought into it by council, by staff, and by speaking to our riders, we could develop a 3-route system that is as good, if not, in fact, better than this leftover 4-route system that we have. We are looking at changing whatever routes we presently have. I really think for a community our size that does care about everyone in the community, and we are looking at neighborhoods that really do require this service, that we can do it effectively with the 3-route system. And I really think that if we were to wipe the slate clean and start over, that is the system that we would come up with, which is why at present I would support a 3-route system over a 4-route system. I think that it would better serve the citizens and all the taxpayers by still providing that service, that essential service, I think, to our priority neighborhoods, and providing some relief to taxes as we move forward. Passing on a 7% tax increase next year, it leaves me rather cold. But outside of the finances, I have to wonder, can we serve those neighborhoods that need to be served with the 3-route system? And I really think that we can.
Any other? Councillor Lemon.
Just one final point, and this is really bothersome to me. Table 2, service level costs. And we're saying we're going to save 2%. No, folks, you're not, because that number does not include the loss of ridership. In fact, you might save $30,000 a year. I think, like, we have some big budget items we could cut. Let's stop working our heads off to decrease service to save $30,000. But if you read the title, cost savings excluding a loss of ridership projections, and those are based on standard things, and I think those standard formulas are probably reasonably accurate because we use them all the time and other things. The net saving in year 1 would be $30,000 to go from 4 to 3. That's nothing in our budget. I really think that we've got to recognize there's a heck of a difference. It's like if I'm in a boat and I'm 4 feet from the dock and I jump 3 feet, it's only a foot less, but I'm in the water. And I really think we're making a mistake, a tragic mistake. And I think what we will do is end up destroying the transit system. When council thought they had an efficient way of saving money, at one point we went to 45-minute service, and I think several councillors have alluded to this over time. It was a disastrous experiment. And I really think the 3-route system will be a disaster because there's no common meeting points that people can work to. That's going to be a huge loss. And the points where they have some of the meetings, there's nowhere for people to get out of the weather, and there's no room for transit terminals, or transit shelters. I really think this is an argument that, and I also feel that we should be going to a public meeting before we decide on the routes, and I will therefore move we table the discussion on the route level until such time as the public meeting has been held. This will not affect the awarding of the contract, and that's why I'm making that motion, and the direction be that there be a public meeting in an accessible place by public transit.
Okay, well, we do have a motion to table, and that basically trumps the other motion that's on the floor at this time. So to the appropriateness of tabling, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion to table? All those opposed? Motion is defeated. Back to the original motion, which is a motion by Councillor Purdon. And we'll ask the clerk just to review that for council so that everyone's clear on that.
Move that City Council move forward with a 4-route system.
That's the first part. Okay, that's the motion currently on the floor. All those in favor?
I would ask for a vote of record.
Sure.
Councillor Adair?
Opposed.
Councillor Boddy?
Opposed.
Councillor Chamberlain? In favor. Councillor Lemon?
In favor.
Councillor McManaman?
Opposed.
Councillor Purdon? In favor. Councillor Twaddle?
Opposed?
Councillor Wright?
In favor.
Mayor Haswell?
Opposed.
Thank you. That motion is defeated with 5 opposed and 4 in favor.
Subsequent motions, Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. I would move the recommendation that we receive the report that we award the tender to First Student-Owned Sound to supply the transit fleet on a 3-route system, authorize staff to finalize an agreement for 8 years. The recommendation with the 3-route system.
We have a motion on the floor. I'm going to speak to this motion, and I'm going to say that certainly everyone around this table has heard tonight that there's tremendous support to retain a public transit system in Owen Sound. That's what we've done here tonight. We have kept a public transit system. We have a financial issue that we are facing, that we have to look at each and every service. As a municipality our size, as we serve a community our size, with a finite number of residents, we have to simply watch where every dollar is being spent. It's very, very important to me as mayor that we have a public transit system. What I would like to see as this rolls forward is I would like to see shelters at all of the bus stops with benches. I would like to see an improved 3-route system with the operator. I would also like to have a much better approach to the promotion and the sale of monthly passes, particularly to Georgian College, who now has 1,000 full-time students, and I have confirmation that they are interested in posting transit passes as part of their enrollment and registration package. So to improve a smaller system, to make it tighter, make it better, and it can be done. It can be done. So what we're doing tonight is we're preserving a public transit system. I want to encourage kids to ride it. I want to see kids learn how to use the bus system when they're young. Whatever we're providing, it's only going to be as good as how often it gets used. And we know the system is well used. So let's roll out an improved 3-route system. Let's focus on getting shelters to those areas where when I'm driving by in the warmth of my car, I don't see somebody standing on the side of a road in wind and snow and rain. And we have to provide that for our transit riders. Any discussion further to the motion? Councillor Lemon.
Well, the people who voted for the 4-route system all want the same objective. And I think one of the comments you made, which we're talking about saving. The real saving is $30,000 a year. I can name some departments where if we could make that saving from very easily. When you're looking at a multi-million-dollar budget, which we are going to be doing in 5-6 weeks, the $30,000 savings, they're nice. But we need $100,000, $200,000, $500,000 savings. And we're spending an awful lot of time and doing things which I think in the long term are going to be detrimental to the community to save $30,000. And that's all we're saving next year. This is not going to have a 1% effect on taxes. It's going to have a very, very small effect. And if we lose ridership more than the projected, then we will actually be even worse shape than we are now. I would ask for a recorded vote on this.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Adair.
Well, it's either further discussion or perhaps a subsequent motion, because I would dearly love to see us set up and I'd like to see what the process is for the development of the 3-route system. I believe it must include all the stakeholders, Georgian College, the people from the priority neighborhoods that we're trying to serve, with a discussion about where they intersect, what kind of shelters are put there. We need to make the 3-route system work. I think we can if we work together and if we work with the public. So I'm not sure if that should be a subsequent motion outside of this one. If not, I'd be happy to bring that forward after this motion.
Thank you. For the record, the 3-route system would continue as a 30-minute service. It would also see a projected savings over the life of the contract of $2.2 million.
No. Your Worship, that's not the stats that are on the sheet on table 2. There's no $2.2 million saving of going from a 3-route to a 4-route system.
Over the lifespan of the contract, it's a 14%.
No. Your Worship, that does not include the loss of ridership. Right at the top of the page.
That is, Councillor Lemon, we disagree.
Well, we may disagree, Your Worship, but it's stated below, note, the ridership loss reduction in revenue was projected in previous reports at 100,000. That's not included in that number. You're not going to save 130,000. I'm sorry.
Councillor Lemon, with all due respect, we know your thoughts on the consultant that put forward those very numbers. I do not believe that that will be the projected revenue loss.
Sure won't be too many.
Yeah. To the motion. Oh, we're having a recorded vote. Yes. Poll the council, please.
Councillor Adair.
In favor.
Councillor Boddy.
In favor.
Councillor Chamberlain. Opposed. Councillor Lemon.
Opposed.
Councillor McManaman.
In favor.
Councillor Purdon. Councillor Twaddle.
In favor.
Councillor Wright.
Opposed.
Mayor Haswell.
In favor.
Thank you. That motion is carried with 5 in favor and 4 opposed.
Councillor Boddy, or Councillor Adair, I'm sorry.
It's one of the good-looking men at the end. I realize you get that confused. Your Worship, I would move that we ask staff to come forward with a process for developing a three-route system, to include stakeholders in that process, and that council can see what that process is. I think in order for this to be successful, we absolutely need to involve the riders and anyone else that has a vested interest in this.
Councillor Purdon?
Could I make a suggestion that we not only engage the ridership in that kind of a consultation about the routes, but also how best to get the word out about the transit system? What's the best way to find out how to get from place to place? I think, as I brought out before, we have a pole at the end of my street that just says bus stop. Okay, so where's it going? What time? How would I know? So could we broaden the consultation? That would be a friendly amendment, I guess, to look at how we could make a more effective transit system.
Absolutely. I think that what we need to look at, I mean, signage is a very important part of a transit system. People knowing where they need to be. I think asking our present riders, you know, how do you access that information, and how would that be easier, and how could other people access that information? But I think it's important that we develop, that we see as a council a process to develop this three-route system, and we have the beginnings, but quite frankly, those were lines put on a map. And ultimately, we will be putting lines on a map, but they need to be the right lines, and they need to go where they need to go and serve the people who need to be served. So I think we need that process shown to us and approved, and have our own input into that process, and move forward as quickly as we can.
Ms. Corsi?
Well, thank you, Your Worship. Certainly, staff are happy to do a fully consultative process. We think that's appropriate. We think that's necessary. One of the things that's not in this report, however, is the management of the system. And we don't have a manager of transit. And that's one of our challenges. So it will take us a bit of time. It will take cross-department people to work on that consultative process. So I just ask for your patience while we get that put together and roll it out.
Further discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. That was good discussion, and we'll move along to the next item on the agenda. We have a report from the Director of Community Services with regards to supplemental lease agreements with Transport Canada for various lands around the Owen Sound Harbour. Councillor Body.
Thank you. This is renewing an ongoing lease, from what I understand, supplemental with regard to the water intake, walkway on the east side of the harbour, the walkway and park on the west side, pedestrian bridge over...
Excuse me, if I could just ask, if you'd like to chat, if you could just please leave the chamber so we could carry on with business. Thank you. I'm sorry, Councillor Body, please proceed.
Includes the pedestrian bridge over the Potawatomi going into Kelso, and the floating docks, of course, on the east side. I do note that as we talk about our financial squeeze, the federal government seems fit to increase the fee 3% for our rental of this public space year after year during the term of the lease, but I'll hold my nose in that fact and move the recommendation.
Councillor McManaman.
Thank you, Worship. Question to probably the Director of Finance. The water intake pipe, that payment, is that taken out of water revenue?
That's correct, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a report from the Director of Operations with regards to a Bell Alliant lease at the Owen Sound Fire Hall. Councillor Wright.
Move the recommendation that we lease the space at the Owen Sound Fire Hall to Bell Alliant at reasonable price.
Discussion, Councillor Body.
I just noticed the lease is drafted at paragraph 10. It refers to Bell being able to register the lease on title. Doesn't set out that we would require them to remove that lease from title, and whether there's some that are there now from past or going forward. And I just suggest that leaving it in the clerk's able hands, that we add something to that effect.
Noted.
I'm gesturing to the Director of Operation because he has been negotiating
Yes.
with Bell Alliant on this matter.
Through your worship, I suggest that if I have discussions with the Bell Alliant representative, I don't foresee that being a problem.
It's pretty standard.
To the motion, all those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have some minutes of boards and committees for approval. We have the bylaw committee meeting held on August the 7th. Council's direction. Councillor Adair.
Move we approve, Your Worship.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have 2 sets of in-camera meetings for approval. What is Council's direction? Councillor Purdon?
Approval of the minutes?
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We are at other business. Councillor Chamberlain.
No, see? Oh, I'm sorry, 13A. That's all right. I thought we were going to deal with this in
No, we have other business. Councillor Chamberlain. But it's
Yes,
good
it's
to know
quite
that
all right.
you're paying attention.
I do get this. I just wanted to say that it was quite a privilege to be on that First Impressions program, and that was one where we go to another community and sort of score them on our first impressions. We took on roles, and I took on the role of a senior citizen looking for housing. And it was very interesting that I, from the very first question, got asked if I'd like to see model homes, and I was almost taken right over by the Lake Couchiching and by some beautiful homes, and I was almost ready to buy. So what I wanted to point out was, when we were driving home and we were talking with the tourism people, they said that is a question that we get asked a lot in Owen Sound as well. And I just thought, is there a way that we can somehow work with real estate to have some model homes or have something available that when people who we want them to come to live here, and we say we want them to come to live here, but then we don't have anything kind of organized to show them that they can buy. So I'm sure there's a way to work with developers, with real estate, to somehow make that a part of what we can present. So I just thought I'd like to put that forward, and maybe some people could think on that, and we could have a motion another time. It was quite a nice way to approach finding out about where to live in Aurelia.
And this is a program through OMAFRA? or
Yes.
the new name of that particular entity. And were there city senior staff members that accompanied the Owen Sound group on this particular exchange? Because it's then reciprocated by the community you visited.
Yes, there was a team of 5 of us. There was Councillor Purdon. There was Steve, no, I'm sorry, that wasn't Steve. Paulette Perot from the Tourism Office. Jane Phillips, and is that the 5 of us?
Dave Parsons.
And Dave Parsons from the DIA.
Okay.
Yes. They all had different roles, but I was the senior.
It is quite remarkable when you go into community, when you're visiting, what you see and what you don't see. And thank you for doing that. Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to make this very quick. You know, listening to people and listening to conversations from various people and listening to comments, you hear complaints that there's grass that hasn't been cut, there's garbage laying around that hasn't been picked up, and you hear these things, and then somebody calls an open line and says, what's the matter with this city? Don't they want to have it looking nice? Well, I want to tell you a story, because a few weeks ago, we had the Canadian Under-21 junior softball tournament here, and I had an opportunity to take the two representatives, one from New Brunswick, one from British Columbia, on a tour of the city. I had them out for an hour and a half in the morning. I picked them up at 8 o'clock. I took them to Harrison Park first of all. We toured the park, we walked down to the cairn. I drove them all over the city and showed it, and listening to their comments and looking at our city through their eyes, we have one beautiful city, one that we should all be appreciating and saying how great it is, not pointing out everything that's wrong with it. We're always going to have some little niggling thing that isn't quite right, and we can always work on fixing those things. But I think it's time that we accented the positive and forgot about the negative. And so I'm kind of asking that this happen, and if we all spoke positively about our city, then we would feel maybe a little bit better. But quite frankly, our flowers are beautiful. Our main street is not a garbage dump. It actually looks quite nice, and I think that we do a good job. Yes, maybe we could have the garbage picked up on the weekend. Maybe we can work on that, but that's all I want to say on that.
Okay, we'll come back to your other item after all the other members of council. Councillor Adair.
Well, after that, Your Worship, I'm almost reluctant to bring forward my concern, although my concern is about an entire city block. The BCK property. When the abandoned buildings were there, I came into this council and demanded from the then owner what they were going to do about it. And we gave them some timelines to do something about that. The buildings came down. There's a structure around that property that could loosely be described as a fence. I'm not sure that that anyone else would describe it as a fence, but the owner. I would really love to have a report from staff on what possible avenues the city can take to encourage, if not compel, the owner of that property to do something that's slightly more aesthetically pleasing than what is there. I mean, it may even look better, although I'm not sure about safety concerns, if there was no fence at all. It is sort of a major eyesore right across from our harbor. It affects 3 neighborhoods. It needs a little TLC by the owner. And I would ask then a report from staff on what are our options with that property. And maybe our economic development officer has been in contact with the owner. I don't know. I do know that one of the owners lives in Austria. But we all live here, and that property is here, and I would like us to at least have some plan of action. If there's nothing we can do, I guess there's nothing we could do, but I would like to see that in black and white.
Sure. That's a motion. City Manager.
We're happy to do that. It'll take a little bit of time because I think we've not been successful in finding an easy route through bylaw enforcement. So now it's about all the things that Councillor Adair has said and really what we can encourage the developer to do to make that property less unsightly. So happy to proceed to bring together cross-department to see if we can't make that work better.
Thank you. Councillor Purdon.
Do we need a property standards bylaw that has some teeth in it? Is that the problem around the bylaw? Because certainly it's not going to be the first or the last property like that. Do we not have a bylaw that we can enforce, or is it an intractable owner? I need a little
I think in large part this is about a property that is in transition from its previous historic use to what may happen in the future. I can't answer your question specifically. I'm always very careful in getting too specific on property standards bylaws, because then it will force council to apply it in a circumstance potentially where it doesn't make as much sense. If you have very strict standards, then a neighbor will ensure that you enforce it on a neighbor. So I would just encourage you to let us have those discussions. It's good to have a resolution of council that we can go to the owner and say, this has been raised, we need to look at some solutions.
Further discussion? I can say to Councillor Adair, and on the heels of the comments from Councillor Purdon and the city manager as well, that the Director of Economic Development and Tourism is currently in the process of arranging a meeting with that particular property owner, myself, and the Economic Development Director. Perhaps Councillor Body, as well as Chair of Economic Development, will be joining in on that meeting, and we can certainly message this to him. Councillor Lemon.
Worship, I'm sorry, I will have to declare a conflict of interest on this because I live across the street and I can't comment further, so I will stand down for this.
Fair enough. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Councillor Body. I'm sorry, Councillor Adair, was that the only item that you had? Okay. Councillor Body.
Thank you, Your Worship. We received the letter a little bit earlier from former Councillor Gary Levine from the Owen Sound Police Services Board. Just to make clear for the public, the Police Services Board is set up specifically to be arm's length from council so that we politically aren't interfering in policing or what goes on in the community, and it makes sense. It's there for a reason. We appoint yourself being the mayor and a councillor, was Councillor Dare, now Councillor Wright, and a third party. They have public meetings, that their public minutes are on their website, from what I understand. We have our public minutes that are on ours. As they're moving forward in this negotiations, I'm suggesting that we have their public minutes added to our report that we get for our council meetings every month, just like we get the art gallery and the DIA minutes, so that we understand what's going on over there and we stay current on top of this.
Sure.
The other part that I would ask staff to review and look into is this. They have very specific in-camera items around policing that are, frankly, shouldn't be distributed to council. None of our business. We shouldn't know about them. But there will be in-camera things that will go on at the Police Services Board that may affect negotiations such as this, may affect financial things that could be our business as councillors. And I say could because it really needs to be worked out. So I'm going to bring a motion that staff write a report, work with the Police Services Board to come up with some kind of protocol for anything in camera that goes on a Police Services Board that could or should be presented to us in our in-camera meetings.
Got the motion. To the motion, Councillor Lemon.
When I was first elected, we used to get all the minutes from police services. I'm trying to remember when that stopped and why it did, but you'd remember it, Councillor Hassel. We used to get those minutes. I agree with Councillor Body's intent. And certainly there's stuff we should never know about and don't want to know about and shouldn't even be sent to us in any form, shape, but there could be some things on their in-camera agenda that may be of general interest. And I think we have to err on the side of protecting the police information pertaining to operational procedures, et cetera, and I think that's your intent.
Councillor Lemon, our friendship will continue to flourish if you refer to me as Your Worship or Mayor.
I'm sorry, what did I refer to?
An old title, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
Respectfully.
I was not meaning any disrespect in any way, shape, or form. The reason I'm supporting this is There needs to be transparency, and we're part of that process.
Sure. I too recall a time when we did receive the public portion of the minutes, and I'm not sure when that happened, but looks like we're going to revisit, and that's okay too. All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. We look forward to that report coming forward.
Thank you. My other matter, I had a citizen approach me with regard to the parking of commercial vehicles such as a 40-foot bus or transport trucks constantly in front of their homes on a residential street. There seems to be some confusion whether there's a bylaw against that, whether it's part of the planning process. So I just ask for staff to look into it and report back to council, just so we can clarify that and make a determination. Does that need to be a motion?
A motion would be fine.
Yeah, I'll move it then, please.
Any discussion? Councillor Dare.
I guess, does Councillor Body want that to go through the planning committee or the bylaw committee? Or operations? Or operations.
Operations, I think. Yeah.
All right.
It's on street.
Frankly, I really don't care. I would rely on staff to make the appropriate decision as to who looks at it.
Okay. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. I think it's important to keep in mind that some folks, that's how they make their living, by driving those large transport trucks, and they do need a place to put them. So just keeping that in the back of our minds moving forward. Is that your final item? Thank you. We're now at a few items that I have to bring forward to council. Most of mine involve very good news, and the first one is one that Councillor Twaddle has a pecuniary interest in, and this is a coffee break. I'm inviting all members of the community, as well as members of council and senior staff, all staff, to a coffee break on Friday, September 13th from 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock. I'll be here till noon, so from 10 till noon, I'll pour you a cup of coffee. And from noon on, I'll ask for the indulgence of members of council. If 1, 2, 3 or more of you can fill in anytime during noon till 2, that would be much appreciated, in the front lobby downstairs in City Hall. This is to bring awareness to the Alzheimer's Society's research, and it is a very debilitating disease affecting just far, far too many of our residents. So I will ask for your support on that. Thank you. I also would like to share with council a flag that was presented to the city, and this flag was flown over Fort McHenry. This is an American flag that is representative of the State of the Union in 1812, representing 15 states. It has 15 stars on it. And this is something that has been gifted to the city. It came off of the ship, the Pride of Baltimore, and is something that we will keep here in perpetuity. And this also is an award or a certificate of appreciation that was given to the city from the Canadian Armed Forces. And this was in appreciation to the city providing the streets and the community for their exercise recently, which has been referred to as the Stalwart Guardian 2013. The contribution enhanced the effectiveness of the training, enabling the Canadian Armed Forces to better prepare its personnel for operations and ultimately to defend Canada. And I have to tell you that on the day that the CO wanted to present this to the city, I was unable to get to City Hall at that very moment. And he and two of his colleagues, in full army fatigue, in a very large black Denali, drove up to my house and jumped out of their large vehicle and ran up the stairs. And I can tell you that the entire neighborhood was a Twitter as people were looking out the door, wondering what was going on, with 3 soldiers at my front door with a big camera with a very large lens taking an awful lot of pictures. So that's what was happening if my neighbors are watching, and otherwise we'll let them guess. So thank you to the community for that. We have something in front of you that, as you know, I've been involved with a number of mayors from around the Great Lakes in bringing awareness to the serious issue of the low lake levels, the low water levels in Georgian Bay in particular. And this is an initiative by a number of individuals that is called Stop the Drop. And it is an awareness campaign. It's an awareness campaign to create interest and drive concern to other levels of government on the impacts of the low lake levels. Our community is experiencing low lake levels, but I can tell you that communities further north of us along Georgian Bay are being absolutely debilitated economically by the low water levels. And so in support, you can go to stopthedrop.ca and you can sign a petition if you choose. And you can also see a number of mayors with arguably some really amazing video footage of our concerns around the low lake levels. So I would encourage you to support Stop the Drop. Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, in respect to that, I received an email today from the Stop the Drop people because I've been in contact with them, and they're trying to get 30,000, I believe, people on their petition as quickly as possible. So we should encourage, and perhaps we can put something even on our own website to encourage people to support Stop the Drop. I was talking to a cottage owner who's fairly high up on the Bruce Peninsula around Lion's Head, and there's just no way they can bring their boat in. It's just totally impossible. Yeah. And it's going to lower the property values and I'm hoping that it has no adverse effect on the fishery, particularly at this time when the Sydenham sportsmen are holding their absolutely wonderful week or 10 days of the Salmon Spectacular, which of course is on now. And today they had the Beckett family, and there were more seniors down there than I know. Our specialized transit bus was running heavily back and forth, just taking people from various retirement homes and seniors' residences to get down there for the Becketts.
Thank you for those comments, and that leads me to my next congratulations to all of the staff and all of the residents of Owen Sound for their tremendous turnout, for Summerfolk, for the tall ships, for the just underway Salmon Spectacular. We certainly have showcased our community, and echoing somewhat the comments from Councillor Wright, what a tremendous community we have. And for those of us that live here and love this place, we oftentimes get a little bit bogged down in seeing some of the things that we want to see improved. And the reason we get bogged down in those things is because we care very much and we want to see the improvements. But let's not forget to celebrate the fact that we've had over 20,000 visitors through here in the last 2 weeks. And the number of staff and the tremendous number of volunteers that managed through the tall ships, through Summerfolk, through the Salmon Spectacular. I have to say a hearty congratulations to everyone involved. It was certainly an amazing festival all around. It was an amazing showcase for the community, and without a doubt, we continue to show what we can do here when we put our minds to it. So congratulations to everyone for that. I wanted to update council in terms of, we talked a lot about transit tonight. I was in discussion earlier today briefly with the district manager for the Greyhound bus line. Greyhound is going to be formally announcing that they will be reducing the frequency of service in and out of Owen Sound. They will be reducing their service to one bus in and one bus out of Owen Sound daily. This is something that we're not going to rest on. We have a transportation issue. We are not northern, we are not remote, but we seem to be sharing a lot of the same issues as our northern and remote communities seem to be experiencing when it comes to access with public transportation. For us, it's busing. And for a community of our size to have a reduction of that scope, it's severe. My office has currently got calls into the Minister of Transportation at Queen's Park to secure a meeting this fall to discuss this very issue, along with the council motion supported by Grey County and others for directional signage on the 410 north on Highway 10. Councillor Purdon.
Just in regards to that, we were just at First Impressions in Aurelia that has 4 buses a day going to and from Toronto, from Aurelia, a community of 31,000.
Yep.
And one of the reasons they have that increased public transit, or it's not public, it's private, but it is generally available buses, is that it was a requirement when they had Lakehead establish a campus there. They had to improve access to the community for students. And I think in terms of our wishes to have a campus, to have expansion of Georgian College here, we absolutely have to be able to get people from out of our community here and back. So now it's almost impossible to go to London, Waterloo, and now Toronto. So we're being more isolated. So I think as a council, we can come together and support you and really make a big noise about this.
Well, we're going to definitely be doing that. Councillor Lemon.
Your Worship, one of the great tragedies of this city has been the erosion of access. When I was growing up, we had 2 trains a day. I remember my grandmother talking about when there used to be 3 trains on each line, which was 6 trains a day. And now we're down to like a bus. You had the CN and CPR, both who provided service to Toronto. CP was the fastest. CN, if you wanted to go to London or St. Mary's, where we went a lot. And I think this has got to be something we've got to get organizations such as FCM and AMO discussing. And that's the point you made, which is very valid. We are the farthest north part of the city in southern Ontario, or we're the farthest south city in northern Ontario. And I think quite often we have more in common with our neighbors in northern Ontario than we do with the south because of the lack of transit, the lack of a 4-lane highway, and the fact that it tends to be ignored. I agree with the pointing Owen Sound so many miles because that's the way it used to be. And it seems that we are the forgotten part of Ontario, both federally and provincially.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
Are we on 13A?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Worship. Sorry, Mike. Thank you. I think that this is not going to take me very long, so I think the Sydenham issue of wanting to cede from Meaford has raised a really good point. I don't believe that it's any of our business, that what they want to do really is not our business, and I don't want to talk about that. But I think what they have done is they've given us the perfect opportunity to get in touch with the Minister of Municipal Affairs in this government and ask them to make good on the promise that they made in 2001 when we went through the amalgamation. They said they would take another look at it in 10 years. Well, 10 years has passed and they have not looked at it. So I think that they did commit that they would look at it, see how things are going. So I have a motion here that I'd like to put on the floor, and it just says simply that a letter go to the Premier and the Minister of Municipal Affairs reminding them that there was a promise made in 2001 to take a look at the amalgamation in this area again in 10 years. That's it.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor. Councillor Lemon.
I'll speak in support of the motion. I think it's well put. I feel that what goes on in the municipality of Meaford is Meaford's business. However, I think we should also attempt to let the people of Sydenham know that we would like to talk to them if they want to talk to us on a restructuring, because when we joined the county, I thought there was a commitment for boundary adjustments at that time, that would happen if we went to the county, would make it much simpler. Was that not part of the negotiations?
No, not that I'm aware of.
I thought that they said that it would be much simpler for boundary adjustments if we were part of the county.
I don't think so, but if I may, Your Worship, I believe that, I don't believe it's up to us to go to a municipality and talk to them. I think if they want to talk to us, then they have to make a formal request to talk to us. Other than that, I think it's not our business, but I do think that we should be thinking about the future, and we should be asking the ministry to take a look at the amalgamation. And if they're willing to take a look at it, then we can perhaps sit down and see. I don't think it was perfect when it was done in 2001, but it was done, and so it is the way it is. But I just feel that we should make them live up to their commitment.
Well, the reason why I was speaking to that is I also, historically, we were part of Sydenham Township. Our original name was Sydenham. And we can't induce them to do more, the separatist group. But I think that there, unfortunately, has been some misinformation as to what would happen to them if they did come with the city. I don't know where it's going to go, but I agree with what you're saying. I think that's the way to do it, through the province, looking at the fact that that area has more in common with the city than it probably does with the town of Meaford. And I think that this is a good first step.
Councillor Twaddle.
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't support the motion. I think both Councillor Wright and Councillor Lemon are correct when they say that the concerns that are being dealt with in the municipality of Meaford are Meaford's business, and I think it's inappropriate for us to involve ourselves. That's not a comment on what the city's position might be at some point in the future when or if we are approached to have discussions. Right now, it's an issue within the municipality of Meaford. Nobody has approached us in any official way, and I think it's inappropriate for us to become involved, including inappropriate for us to ask the ministry to review an amalgamation that we were not part of. If that motion is to review the amalgamation of the city back into the county, that's a different motion. But if the municipality of Meaford were looking for support to ask the ministry to review the amalgamation, then we might consider it. But I don't believe it's appropriate for us to intercede in the discussion that's going on in Meaford. I think it's premature and inappropriate.
This isn't asking to intercede in their talks. It's asking the ministry.
Further discussion to the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have a motion that committee rise.
Committee rise.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Resolution adopting proceedings in committee of the whole, please.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that the action taken in Committee of the Whole in considering public meetings, deputations, public question period, matters arising from correspondence, reports, matters tabled, motions for which notice was previously given, and other business be hereby confirmed by this Council.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Notices of motion, new business by resolution. Bylaws, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Adair, that bylaw numbers 2013-157 through and inclusive to 2013-165 be hereby passed and enacted, and further that bylaw number 2013-166 156 be deferred.
Madam Clerk.
Your Worship, it appears that we made a clerical error, and I would ask that that be adjusted to finish at 166 rather than 165.
Okay. And that bylaw 2013-156 be deferred?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Council clear? All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We are now adjourned.